It was from the Cataclysm. I can illuminate the technological tree. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 426, The Eve of War. Ren Feng's voice echoed in LV Yongchang's office through the loudspeaker. Unlike the Earth era, humans now have more powerful lethal weapons. If a civil war breaks out, the damage caused by these weapons will be far greater than that of the Earth era. What's more, both the Proxima humans and their human fleet now live in enclosed cities on the surface. Once the outer wall of a city is destroyed, the external environment is enough to kill all humans in a city without any weapon. So, even LV Yongchang held his breath at this moment. What is the result of the war? He looked at Ren Feng and Zhang Zhenqing in the holographic picture. Did the natural man win? Ren Feng nodded and shook his head. The entire war lasted for more than 10 years. At the beginning, both natural people and public-sponsored people retained their last bit of rationality. There were only some minor frictions on both sides. The Parliament and the Academy of Sciences are also trying their best to promote reconciliation between the two groups. After all, the human civilization of Proxima cannot withstand a civil war. Natural people and public-sponsored people have therefore maintained a strange balance until the eve of a full-scale war. Earth Calendar year 2353. Proxima City number 3. This is a city composed of public-sponsored people. At the same time, it is also the capital in the minds of public-sponsored people. The reason is very simple. The first public-sponsored person councillor was born in this city. And this war was also promoted by this public-sponsored person councillor in the eyes of all public-sponsored people. He is a little light in the endless night. But, obviously, the natural person group does not see him that way. Zhuang Wenxing walked on the busy street, looking at the busy people around him, and breathed a sigh of relief. More than a decade later, he got his dream job as he wished. In the past decade, city number 3 has not stopped its development because of the declaration of war. The city nurturing center continuously provides fresh blood for the city. Compared with more than a decade ago, the total population of city number 3 has increased several times. The originally empty city, at this moment, seems to have restored its appearance hundreds of years ago. That was the pastoral era, when the human fleet had not yet left. Yes, in everyone's mind, the era when the human fleet had not yet left Proxima Centauri has become a pastoral era in various works of art. People at that time had no disputes, no worries about food and clothing, and now city number 3, with the population growing year by year, has also vaguely had such a flavor. At least, people come and go on the streets, and the smell of city fireworks is gradually becoming stronger. However, compared with the pastoral era, the human touch of city number 3 at this time is not maintained by blood relations, but the so-called birth batch. When passing by a snack bar, Zhuang Wenxing's ears moved slightly. Hey, boss, which batch were you born in? Me. Good morning. Batch 3 231,610. Which batch were you born in, brother? Hey, fellow countrymen. I'm from batch 3 231,612. Maybe we met when we were little. Ha ha ha. What a coincidence. It's quite a coincidence. How about a cheaper price? Okay. Hey, that's not right. Why didn't I remember you saying that last time in the store next door? Well, brother, you must have remembered it wrong. No matter what, I was born in batch 3 231,612. Listening to the familiar conversation, Zhuang Wenxing smiled faintly. 3 231,610 and 3 231,612. The meanings of these two numbers are actually very simple. The first digit is actually the city number. City number 3 is 3, and city number 5 is 5. As for A, it refers to area A of the city nursing center. The city nurturing center is very large, divided into more than 10 areas, distinguished by letters. After that, it is the time of birth 231,610, which means that he was born in October 2316 of the Earth calendar. This kind of light human touch is not as reliable as blood ties, but to some extent, it is more suitable for today's human beings at least. Compared with decades ago, corruption in city number 3 has basically disappeared. Although there was no such phenomenon in the pastoral era. But that was an environment under zero strong supervision, and now it is a good environment formed spontaneously. Therefore, since the declaration of war, every public nurturing city has started a rapid development mode after a short period of adaptation. To some extent, this just proves the correctness of the social public nurturing system. In contrast, the total population growth rate of natural person cities is not fast, because the nurturing center has been closed. Even under the looming threat of war, there is a trend of slowing down year by year as one group gained strength, while the other lost. The gap in strength between the public funded group and the natural funded group widened rapidly. Perhaps, under ideal conditions, the public funded people only need to wait for a while, and they will naturally declare victory in this war. Yongchang, a familiar female voice came from the front. Yongchang retracted his thoughts that were drifting randomly and cast his eyes in the direction where the voice came from. It was his wife, Gong Shanshan. Yongchang smiled faintly and walked towards the woman quickly. Let's go home. In the group of people who are supported by the government, the concept of fertility has been almost reduced to 0. But this does not mean that the impulse of genes can be suppressed. For the sake of stability, the Council of City number 3 chose to continue the original marriage system. However, marriage at this time is more like a cooperative and mutual assistance relationship. Walking on the way home, Gong Shanshan beside him suddenly sighed softly. What's wrong, Yongchang asked softly. When do you think this war will end? Facing Gong Shanshan's inquiry, Yongchang thought for a while and muttered to himself, soon. Although they hardly felt the urgency brought by the war, every time they heard about the dispute between natural persons and people who were supported by the government, they would have some slight worries in their hearts. What will the war be like? Gong Shanshan asked again. Yongchang's expression was slightly choked. He shook his head. I don't know this question, let alone him. I think even the council chairman of city number 3 is not sure about the answer. Compared with the natural person group, the public foster people's understanding of war is almost 0. They have no experience. All their knowledge comes from the teaching materials of the nurturing center, but that teaching material was originally written by natural people. That's why the public foster people group has a procrastinating attitude towards the development of the war. As long as I can outlast you all, I can win. Chapter 427. The beginning is the end. Just when Yongchang was thinking their the holographic images on both sides of the street suddenly paused. Before he could react, every holographic image automatically switched channels. The background is bright red with a warning tone. The next moment, a familiar figure appeared in the holographic projection. According to the latest intelligence, city number 2 was attacked by large weapons 5 minutes ago. Currently, there is slight damage to the outer wall of city number 2. The number of casualties is still being counted. Everyone, the war has begun. Yongchang froze on the spot, staring blankly at the holographic projection in front of him. The war started like this. A natural person fired the first shot. Although he didn't know the exact reason, Yongchang knew that to a certain extent, this was almost inevitable. Watching the public support group gradually grow, the natural person group will never be willing to die slowly. He lowered his eyes, sighed deeply, and reached out to take the palm of the person next to him. Let's go home. There was a murmur from beside him. Hopefully, everything will be over as soon as possible. Proxima. 4th city. Crack. What? Ren Feng's expression changed drastically. He reached out and slapped the desk hard, stood up from the chair, and said angrily, who gave the order to attack? I don't know. Looking at the furious Ren Feng, the congressman subconsciously took a step back and responded in a low voice. It should be a spontaneous attack by some extreme people. Before Ren Feng could speak, the office door suddenly opened. Before anyone arrives, the sound comes first. Zhang Zhenking's angry voice came from outside the door. Ren Feng, what's going on? Why is city number 2 under attack? Because he was too angry. Zhang Zhenking didn't even care about others and called Ren Feng by his name. Faced with a question, Ren Feng responded gloomily, Zhenking, calm down. I Don't know about this either. It should be a small-scale attack organized by extremists themselves. Small scale? Zhang Zhenking laughed angrily. You told me this is small scale. The next moment, he raised his hand and pressed a few buttons on the watch point. A holographic image appeared in front of everyone. Point in the dim sky. There is a star that emits a faint light. Point. That's their home star. Proxima Centauri. Point. After absorbing most of the energy, the Star Eater has long since left. Point. And this Proxima Centauri star has also entered its final years as a red dwarf star. Although it is the last years, it will take a lot of time to see it truly turn into a black dwarf star. Proxima Centauri, which is entering its final years, emits a faint light, no different from the moon and the Earth's 0. Therefore, except for the closed city powered by a large nuclear fusion reactor, the entire Proxima Centauri B has entered an endless and dense night. The originally thick atmosphere has become extremely thin. The original atmosphere has solidified due to the low temperature, turning into pieces of magnificent crystals, lying quietly on the surface of Proxima Centauri B. And in the endless darkness, there are several areas that release light that reaches the sky. The source of the light is the closed cities on the ground. As the camera zoomed in, a silver white city came into view in the light. Hiss. Ren Feng took a sharp breath. The reason is simple. A big black hole suddenly appeared on the outer wall of this silver white city. The inside of the cave entrance has been blocked urgently. Outside, many people wearing heavy spacesuits can be seen vaguely performing maintenance operations. Do you know what weapon caused this? Zhang Zhenking pointed at the holographic image in front of him and said in a strong tone, this is the damage that can only be caused by a large electromagnetic gun. You tell me this is a small-scale attack. Ren Feng looked at the holographic image in front of him with a pale face, and only a few big words flashed in his mind. Something big happened. Due to lack of experience, Ren Feng's mind went blank at this time. After finally coming back to his senses, he hurriedly said, we have to get in touch with city number 3 as soon as possible and explain. No need to explain. Zhang Zhenking sat down on the chair and sighed as if accepting his fate. It's useless. It's happened regardless of who did it. Our original plan has been completely ruined. Get ready for war. Whether it is Ren Feng or Zhang Zhenking, as pioneers in promoting the public welfare system, they do not resent the original stalemate. After all, everyone can see the development speed of public education. As long as they are given enough time, the restructuring will eventually succeed. Therefore, both of them worked hard to suppress the extreme people in City 4. As long as there is no large-scale war, victory will come sooner or later. But now, their dreams are shattered. Report. The office door opens again. It has been detected that city number 5 has activated the electromagnetic gun around the city. Hearing this, Zhang Zhenking, who was slumped in his chair, jumped up. Are they crazy? Can that weapon be used casually? Quick, prepare to defend. The moment the war started, it entered a white-hot stage. Because they had no experience in war, the public servants used the most lethal weapons they had at the beginning of the warring city: electromagnetic cannons and ring city laser cannons. As the saying goes, a master is defeated by a random punch. The chaotic offensive rhythm suppressed city number 4 in a short period of time. Even the outer wall of city number 4 was damaged a lot. Faced with the threat of life and death, Ren Feng and Zhang Zhenking were powerless to suppress the resistance of the crowd. The counterattack began. When natural people began to use space-based weapons, the war was completely out of control. Huge electromagnetic cannon projectiles fell from the sky and bombarded near cities. The flames of the explosion shot up into the sky. The city was destroyed. People died. The general process is like this. As if confessing his guilt, Ren Feng lowered his head again. The natural people, relying on space-based weapons, barely won the victory, but there were countless casualties. In the following time, we tried our best to repair city number 4 and rescue the public-funded people who survived the war. At present, only city number 4 is still operating normally in the entire Proxima. LV Yongchang fell into silence. Even for him, it was difficult to imagine the scene at that time. Among them, the public-funded people and natural people accounted for 50% each. Zhang Zhenking on the side added, because of the war. The natural people and public funded people in city number 4 do not get along harmoniously at present. There is still a deep gap. Chapter 428, half a step away. LV Yongchang frowned slightly. He bent his knuckles and tapped the desk in front of him. Renfeng and Zhang Zhenqing looked at each other and subconsciously held their breath. They both saw the tangled look on LV Yongchang's face. Dap dap dap. The crisp sound echoed in the office. At this moment, LV Yongchang was thinking about the next response. Should he choose to interfere with the human civilization of Proxima Centauri to a large extent and help them rebuild civilization, or let the human civilization of Proxima Centauri develop freely? As the chief scientist, LV Yongchang naturally knew that the current human civilization of Proxima Centauri had entered an extremely dangerous area. It can be said that it is only half a step away from complete destruction. Admittedly, he can lend a helping hand, but for the human civilization of Proxima Centauri, to some extent, this is not a good thing. Perhaps, with the remote help of the human fleet, the human civilization of Proxima Centauri can overcome this difficulty and embark on the road of smooth development again. But what about the future? He couldn't be online like a robot, answering inquiries from more than a dozen or dozens of light years away. Moreover, from the narration of Renfeng and Zhang Zhenqing, LV Yongchang keenly perceived the huge problems hidden in the human civilization of Proxima. Too little foundation. Because most of those left behind are new generations, the Proxima people have no experience of the Earth era, and their solutions to various problems are extremely unfamiliar for an interstellar civilization. This is fatal. Natural people are like this, let alone public people. Compared with the natural people of Proxima, the public people group is like a pure white paper. It is almost impossible for them to take over the human civilization of Proxima smoothly. Thinking of this, the look on LV Yongchang's face gradually became firm. Dap. LV Yongchang stopped tapping on the desk and asked softly, "What are you going to do next?" "First of all, I hope you understand something. Don't pin your hopes on the human fleet. We won't give you too much help, and we can't give you too much help. You too should know this." Hearing this, Renfeng's eyes dimmed slightly, but he nodded solemnly. After all, the Proxima humans are still an independent civilization, not a subsidiary civilization of the human fleet. If you want to be a true interstellar civilization, you can only overcome this kind of setbacks and difficulties with your own strength. After a moment of silence, Renfeng turned his head and looked at Zhang Zhenqing and said in a deep voice, "Professor, we don't need the help of the human fleet. Next, we will make a final attempt. If Feng paused, his face became tragic. "If it still doesn't work, then you can regard the Proxima human civilization as extinct." LV Yongchang fell into silence again. For a long time. He sighed softly. "I will let the relevant personnel of the Academy of Sciences contact you. If you have any questions, you can ask them, but I don't want you to copy the model of the human fleet. This is the only help I can give you. Thank you." Renfeng lowered his head slightly and thanked him in a low voice. "Next, we will abide by our promise and transmit all the information of the social public support system in the past 80 years to the human fleet. I hope our failure can make the human fleet go further. May the glory of mankind last forever." The communication ended. The holographic projection slowly dissipated in the air. LV Yongchang, who was sitting behind his desk, closed his eyes and sighed again. In his opinion, unless a miracle happens, the human civilization of Proxima Centauri is doomed to perish. Let's not talk about how likely the last attempt mentioned by Renfeng is a death spiral of technological decline caused by the sharp decline in the population base, and the war is not something they can easily break free of. After sorting out his complicated feelings, LV Yongchang reached out to unlock the electromagnetic absorption device on the chair, stood up and walked towards the office door. Proxima Centauri human civilization once again sounded the alarm for him. The human fleet is not out of danger yet. In the vast universe, a mere level 2 civilization is not enough to protect itself under the limitation of resources. Interstellar civilization is like sailing against the current. If it does not advance, it will retreat. 0. Let Ko Liangke and others come to laboratory number 1. The moment he walked out of the office door, LV Yongchang said in a deep voice, Tell them that it's time to start studying magnetic field shield technology. Earth. Laboratory number 1 is the main laboratory inside the Earth. Laboratory number 1 is enough to undertake extremely high precision experimental tasks, while Ko Lianke and others have not yet arrived at the laboratory. LV Yongchang took the lead in making preparations. 0. To out a secondary flagship of the Rattle civilization. LV Yongchang reached out and turned on the switch of the holographic projection and gave an order. Send the robot and prepare to start the dismantling work. Professor, the spaceport is still under construction. Zero's reminder came from the loudspeaker. LV Yongchang frowned slightly. Because the construction focuses on the surface city of Dawnstar, the construction efficiency of the spaceport has been reduced a lot. How much time will it take? At the current speed, it will take more than 3 months. Do we need to adjust the construction plan? LV Yongchang's face darkened at Zero's answer. 3 months. This is too long. Forget it. No need for a spaceport. A gleam of light flashed in Lu Yongchang's eyes. Add simple power modules to your robots, and we will complete the disassembly work directly in space. Received. At the rear of the fleet, a warship with a style completely different from that of the human fleet emitted a faint blue light. Under Zero's control, the warship slowly accelerated and headed towards the vicinity of the Earth. At the same time, the port hatch of the Earth slowly opened. One after another, Unfathomable came out of it, quietly waiting at the designated location, and the robots inside also began to install various functional modules. Professor, along with the sound of the laboratory door opening, Tao Yuda's excited voice came. Are we finally going to start studying the magnetic field shield? Before Lu Yongchang could reply, Ko Lianke's voice rang out. Wow, Professor, this is a big deal. Obviously, he saw the picture in the holographic projection in front of LV Yongchang. The Unfathomable ships were on full alert, and in the distance, a secondary flagship of the latter civilization was gradually approaching. Hearing the voice of an old acquaintance, LV Yongchang's originally depressed mood was relieved a lot. He retracted his gaze, turned around and looked at the researchers who entered the laboratory one after another, and responded with a smile. Of course, it's time for human civilization to enter the third level civilization. Chapter 429 Magnetic Field Shield Generation Unit. I have to say the warships of the Rattle civilization made this research and development work a lot smoother. Lu Yongchang and others completed the analysis of the basic principles of magnetic field shields in just 1 week. 2 weeks later, Lu Yongchang's voice sounded from the loudspeaker in the laboratory. Attention, all units, the first magnetic field shield experiment is about to begin. Good. With the help of latter civilization, Lu Yongchang and others copied the first prototype in just 2 weeks. Rather than saying it is a prototype, it is better to call it a magnetic field shield generating unit. Similar to the whole propulsion unit, a complete magnetic field shield requires the cooperation of a large number of magnetic field shield generating units to produce it. Judging from its appearance, it is very similar to the magnetic field shield generating device of the Rattle civilization. A completely black hemisphere. The diameter of the hemisphere reached 10 meters by then. These hemispheres will be installed on the surface of the ship, just like the Rattle civilization. Compared with the magnetic field shield generating unit on the Rattle secondary flagship, the human-made magnetic field shield generating unit is still slightly smaller, but this is not a technical problem, but a limitation of the experimental site. After all, the shipboard laboratory only has so much space. For safety reasons, the magnetic field shield generation unit was placed in a specially designed large isolation room. After reducing power consumption in front of the experimental bench. Lu Yongchang looked at the picture in the holographic projection. A touch of excitement flashed in his eyes. Start the experiment. Activate the magnetic field shield generation unit. A slight buzzing sound came from all around. The energy of the fusion reactor quickly passed through the normal temperature superconducting wire and converged toward the black hemisphere. The next moment. The magnetic field strength data in the holographic projection soared rapidly in a straight line. A large amount of data flows quickly in front of everyone like running water. Lu Yongchang frowned slightly and stared at the data stream in the holographic projection point along, while Pointus ran relaxed, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. It seems that the first experiment will be successful. On the side, Ko Liang-K and Tao Yuda cast surprised and strange looks at Lu Yongchang. Teach, Professor. Tao Yuda swallowed and asked in a low voice, can you really keep up with these data? Before he finished speaking, he closed his mouth with a wry smile. What on earth is he asking? That's Lu Yongchang. Professor Lu, by asking this, aren't you humiliating yourself? Sure enough, the next second, the buzzing gradually subsided, and Zero's voice quickly sounded. The magnetic field shield has been successfully generated. In the holographic image, a simulated magnetic field image from Zero also appears outside the hemisphere. There is a ring of extremely strong magnetic field point just like the Earth's geomagnetic field point. However, compared with a geomagnetic field, the magnetic field generated by the magnetic field shield generation unit is more regular and easier to control. The shield has been successfully generated, so the next step is to test the strength of the shield. Prepare to attempt an ion beam weapon attack. Lu Yongchang reached out and pressed a few buttons in the holographic image point in the isolation room. A small ion beam generator was quickly activated and launched its own attack forward. Whether it is an ion beam or a magnetic field shield, they are invisible to the human eye. Therefore, Lu Yongchang and others can only rely on Zero real-time computing simulation images to understand the scenes happening in the isolation room. In the simulation screen I saw a slender yellow beam shooting straight towards the translucent magnetic field shield in the distance. With almost no reaction time, the beam hit the shield hard. At the same time, the output power of the magnetic field shield generation unit instantly increases, and that yellow beam, under the influence of a strong magnetic field, easily slid through an extremely natural and beautiful arc, bypassing the target shield generation unit, and hit the extremely strong wall in the isolation room. On the wall, ion beam weapon interception successful. Zero quickly gave the answer to the first experiment, but seeing this scene, Ko Liang-K's eyes were full of excitement and he couldn't help shouting in a low voice. Lu Yongchang nodded with satisfaction. Due to space limitations, he could not test the limits of the magnetic shield generation device, so he directly started the second test. Continue to experiment with the next weapon, plasma bomb preparation. 5 seconds countdown, emission, and like ion beam weapons, plasma bombs can be observed with the naked eye. I saw a ball of high temperature blue plasma with a golden arc flashing on the surface, quickly hitting the shield. Boom. At the moment of impact, the output power of the shield generating unit once again climbed at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, blocked by the strong magnetic field, the plasma bomb dispersed out of thin air. The high temperature plasma in it slid to both sides along the direction of the magnetic field and outlined the general shape of the magnetic field shield. Interception successful. Ling's calm voice sounded again. After a brief silence, there was a burst of cheers in the laboratory. It's not over yet. Lu Yongchang's eyes were full of smiles, but he still said, try electromagnetic gun attack. The powerful magnetic field shield also has a certain deflection effect on the projectiles of the electromagnetic gun. This has been confirmed in the war with the latter civilization. Therefore, in that battle of unequal strength, only laser weapons can cause damage to warships equipped with magnetic field shields. Even for the flagship equipped with gravitational field shields, the laser weapons of the human fleet have little effect. Warning, just as LV Yongchang was about to press the launch button, Zero sounded the alarm. The calculation results show that the power of the shield generation device is not enough to intercept the Type 2 electromagnetic cannon projectile. Do you want to continue firing? LV Yongchang looked normal, obviously expecting this result. Confirm. To fire. Adjust the power of the shield generation unit to the highest. The power of ion beam weapons and plasma weapons is too great, and further experiments cannot be carried out in the laboratory. But the electromagnetic cannon is different. Even if the Type 2 electromagnetic cannon is out of control, as long as the most ordinary shells are fired, it will not cause too much damage to the Earth. In order to more accurately detect the data of the shield generation unit, This risk is still worth taking. After a short wait, the small electromagnetic cannon was fully charged and fired a shell forward. Bang, beep, beep, beep. With a loud bang, a piercing alarm sounded in the laboratory. Interception. Failed. The shield generation device is damaged. Analysis of the cause. LV. Yongchang shrugged helplessly and turned his head to look at the analysis interface on the side. What else could be the reason? It's nothing more than insufficient power. The analysis report given by Zero also confirmed this. The magnetic field shield did deflect the flight trajectory of the electromagnetic cannon projectile, but due to insufficient power, it still hit the outer shell of the shield generation unit. Chapter 430 Promotion. Level 3 Civilization. Laboratory number 1. LV Yongchang and a group of researchers stood in front of a huge holographic projection, quietly watching the constantly changing charts and data in the picture on the side. Under Zero's control, several robots have entered the isolation room in an orderly manner and started the aftermath work. The shield generation unit destroyed by the electromagnetic cannon projectile needs to be cleaned up, sort out the data, and prepare to start the next research. LV. Yongchang retracted his gaze with a little excitement in his eyes and gave the order according to the research plan. After the success of a single shield generation unit experiment, they need to study how to make multiple shield generation units work together. Although there are ready-made algorithms on the warships of the latter civilization, the structures of the warships of the two civilizations are completely different. And it is obviously inappropriate to copy and paste. Faced with LV Yongchang's order, Ko Liangke naturally agreed repeatedly and turned around to start processing the various data generated during the experiment. In the original plan, LV Yongchang would definitely participate in such an important task as sorting out the experimental data, but at the moment, when the experiment was successful, he noticed something strange coming from the depths of his mind. This familiar feeling. The technology tree has been promoted. Thinking of the new technologies of the third level civilization, LV Yongchang couldn't hold back. So he took a deep breath, suppressed the excitement in his heart, and said in the calmest tone possible, "I'm going to rest for a while. If there is any problem, let Link call me." Hearing this, Tao Yuda, who was busy processing data, was stunned, and a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. Professor Lu actually chose to rest at this time. It's a rare thing. Maybe it's because he was too tired during this period. He looked at the heavy dark circles around LV Yongchang's eyes and thought secretly in his heart. The next moment, Tao Yuda retracted his thoughts, nodded, and responded softly, "Don't worry, Professor, it's just some basic data sorting work. Academician Ko and I can handle it." Swish. The door of the office suddenly opened. LV Yongchang walked into the office in a hurry. The moment he entered the office, LV Yongchang could no longer suppress the excitement in his heart. His face flushed slightly, and he gave an order in a hurried tone. "Zero, close the door. No one is allowed to enter without permission." As he spoke, he walked quickly towards his seat. As time went by, the strange feeling in his mind became stronger and stronger. Seeing the office door closed, he breathed a sigh of relief and sat down on the chair with confidence. Click. The moment the sound of the electromagnetic absorption device sounded, he couldn't wait to close his eyes. With a slight movement of consciousness, he entered the fluorescent green space very skillfully. Just like the promotion to the second level civilization, the technology tree space at this time is undergoing a series of huge changes. A bright white line extends from the top of the technology tree and rushes straight to the dim icon directly above. At the same time, his perspective quickly moves up. Boom. A strong vibration came from the depths of his mind. Breakthrough. Breakthrough. The barrier between the second level civilization and the third level civilization was easily broken. Magnetic field control. Primary shield technology. As the bright white line spread, the originally dim cursor became extremely bright. The original lush technology tree has disappeared, replaced by the familiar and complicated dim cursor. At the bottom is the primary shield technology. That is the symbol of the third level civilization. In the entire field of vision, it is the only one that still emits a soft and bright White light point. The original top technology has become the cornerstone technology today. From bottom to top, the brightness of the cursor gradually dims, and the top, as before, is shrouded in a cloud of fog, making it difficult to see clearly. A trace of regret flashed through Yongchang's mind. It's a pity that the necessary technology for the promotion to the 4th level civilization cannot be seen. I think it should be related to gravity. Without time to think about it, he quickly raised his head and observed this new technology tree. The dim thin line slowly extends upward from the bright cursor at the bottom. Magnetic field control, plasma shield. Then, several more dim lines extended from the lower secondary technology tree, and several new dim cursors were developed in turn. Magnetic field control, plasma cannon, type 3 laser weapon, planetary transformation technology. Yongchang moved his sight upwards again. The cursor was already extremely dim, and only a few words could be vaguely recognized. Material technology, antimatter. Yongchang withdrew his gaze with reluctance. Just the names alone, these technologies have already made him extremely excited. But, you have to eat one bite at a time, and you have to climb the technology tree step by step. The consequence of being impatient is to return to the familiar ward again, and face the familiar doctor when thinking of this scene. That is very likely to happen. Yongchang's consciousness shuddered. He quickly focused his attention on the second brightest cursor. Magnetic field control, plasma shield. What kind of technology is this? Yongchang looked at the cursor, which was more than half bright, with some doubt. Could it be the upgraded technology of the magnetic field shield? Then why didn't the latter civilization master it? But when he thought about the strange social structure and technological system of the Rathor civilization, he felt relieved. Yongchang stopped thinking wildly and focused his attention on the dim cursor. The next second, a familiar feeling of dizziness hit. After the dizziness disappeared, my originally muddled brain instantly became clear. Every bit of the shield technology emerged in his mind one by one. Some problems that he had not noticed before were also discovered by Yongchang at this moment. After reviewing the knowledge already mastered, the speed of brain operation soared, and electrical signals were transmitted rapidly between neurons. More than 10 minutes later, the sense of transparency brought about by overclocking slowly disappeared, replaced by a sense of chaos that was stronger than before. Yongchang, who was already familiar with this process, reached out and grabbed the packaging bag on the side. After opening the straw, he took a strong sip of the high concentration nutrient solution in the packaging bag. After a few minutes, after ingesting the high concentration nutrient solution, the chaos in the brain was reduced, but what followed was extremely intense tiredness. 0. How long will it take Ko Liang K and the others to complete the data compilation work? He steeled himself and asked. The holographic projection unfolded quickly, and the picture showed a busy scene in the laboratory. At the current rate, it will take another 3 to 5 hours. Hearing this, Yongchang glanced at the holographic image, and then closed his eyes again. Wait until they finish compiling the data before calling me. Receive. The moment the words fell, the office lights automatically turned off, and the indoor temperature was automatically adjusted to the most comfortable range for the human body. Chapter 431, Precision Magnetic Field Shield and Plasma Shield. Perhaps because of the successful promotion to the 3rd level civilization, Yongchang's sense of urgency was slightly reduced. This sleep was particularly sweet. Professor, in his dream, Yongchang heard Zero's call. The data sorting work has been completed. Yongchang, who was still a little confused, suddenly opened his eyes the moment he heard this. He rubbed his cheeks vigorously to dispel the remaining sleepiness, and then he untied the electromagnetic absorption device on his seat. Okay, I'll go over there. Because of the great success of the experiment, the atmosphere in laboratory number 1 was very relaxed. Almost every researcher had a happy smile on his face. Professor, hearing the footsteps behind him, Ko Liang quickly turned around with a smile on his face. How did you rest, LV? Yongchang naturally smiled and nodded. Not bad, thanks to this sleep. I have a new idea about shield technology. As soon as this was said, the researchers around him stopped their work and cast curious eyes at him. Let's Talk about it after the shield generation unit collaborative algorithm is completed. LV. Yongchang smiled and pointed to the holographic projection next to him. No matter how good the idea is, it cannot be realized by relying on a single shield generation unit. 0 made the greatest contribution to the research on the shield generation unit collaborative algorithm. It can be said that it completed at least 90% of the work on its own. Looking at the huge magnetic field shield generated by the 5 shield generation units in the isolation room, Ko Liang-K couldn't help but sigh in a low voice. Professor, many times I feel that 0 should not be a technology that humans should master. LV. Yongchang's heart jumped suddenly, and he asked calmly, why do you say that? Look. Ko Liang-K nodded at the holographic projection responsible for monitoring the status of the shield generation unit. Not only research, but the rapid development of the entire human fleet is almost all achieved by 0. If there is no 0, I guess we can't even escape from the Earth. LV. Yongchang sighed softly in his heart. No need to estimate. This is the fact. Without 0, humans would never have survived that disaster. Although he thought so in his heart, he still smiled and patted Ko Liang-K on the shoulder. What are you thinking about? Don't forget, I typed out the core code of 0 line by line on the computer. Ko Liang-K scratched his head with a wry smile to hide his embarrassment. Okay, stop sighing about these. LV. Yongchang calmly changed the subject. The next precision shield technology is where 0 really shows its power. Precise shield technology. Sure enough, Ko Liang-K and Tao Yuda's attention was quickly attracted. What do you mean? Is it different from the magnetic field shield of the latter civilization? Precise shield technology. This is a shield solution that LV. Yongchang thought of during the brain overclocking process compared with the magnetic field shield that covers the entire ship of the latter civilization. The precision magnetic field shield has a higher tolerance and less energy loss. The so-called precision shield technology refers to the precise judgment of the attack type at the moment before the attack, and the generation of a corresponding magnetic field shield. Simply put, for example, facing a high energy ion beam. The latter civilization warship responded by activating the ship's magnetic field shield and using a strong magnetic field to deflect the ion beam to avoid damage. In the battle with the human fleet, this technology showed its special disadvantages. The magnetic field shield consumes a lot of energy, and in areas that are not attacked, those energies are wasted. In fact, because it has to support the magnetic field shield that wraps the entire ship, the overall strength of the shield has decreased a lot. That's why, facing the concentrated fire of the human fleet, the magnetic field shield generation unit of the secondary flagship will quickly overload. The precision magnetic field shield proposed by Liu Yongchang is very different from the former. First of all, 0 needs to make a precise analysis of the upcoming attack. Weapon type, attack power, attack target, affected range, because the magnetic field shield can only block low-speed weapons such as high-energy ion beams, plasma weapons and electromagnetic guns. It is completely feasible to analyze the attack type in advance. After comprehensive analysis, 0 can control the magnetic field shield generation unit in the hit area to generate a just right shield point, whether it is the shield strength or the shield area. It can be controlled to be slightly higher than the attack. There is no doubt that this shield generation method greatly reduces energy loss while greatly enhancing the shield strength. After listening to LV. Yongchang's explanation, Ko Liang-K couldn't help but take a breath. Professor, are you sure that 0's current computing power can support this level of task? Tao Yuda on the side also nodded with worry. Unlike LV. Yongchang, the two are not very optimistic about this technology. The battlefield changes rapidly. If you want to accurately control every attack, the computing power requirements for 0 are extremely exaggerated. In response to Ko Liang-K and Tao Yuda's doubts, LV. Yongchang chuckled. I just saw the research progress of Mozang. If nothing unexpected happens, the new generation of optical quantum computers will be available. By then, 0's computing power will increase greatly. Although the specific value is still unclear, this level of calculation task should not be difficult for 0. Are there any questions? Ko Liang K and Tao Yu looked at each other. 0.0 vs 0.0. No, no more. KO Liang K shook his head repeatedly. Professor, is this the new idea you mentioned a few days ago? Yes, but not entirely. LV. Yongchang's answer made the two people confused again. Plasma. Shield. LV Yongchang stretched out his hand and dragged a holographic projection and said, "You can understand it as an enhanced version of the magnetic field shield. It has a stronger interception effect on kinetic weapons." As LV Yongchang spoke, a simulation of a Golden Crow battleship appeared in the holographic screen. A translucent film appeared around the Golden Crow battleship. The film wrapped the entire Golden Crow. It is not difficult to guess that this is the magnetic field shield they have just completed research. Plasma shield can only be realized when the magnetic field shield is running at full power. Lu Yongchang said in a deep voice, in a sense, it is a means of saving life. When attacked by a large number of kinetic weapons, the hull actively releases high temperature plasma. By controlling the magnetic field shield generation unit, the high temperature plasma is allowed to move around the hull at high speed under the restraint of the magnetic field. Use flowing plasma to destroy and block incoming kinetic weapons. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 432, Homeship number 279. 6 months later, Human Fleet, Homeship number 279. The starship that had been silent for a long time once again lit up with bright and soft lights under Zero's control. Rows of hibernating cabins were pushed out in an orderly manner. The wake-up procedure begins. Hope. Welcome to the Gliese 555 star system. It is July 27th, 2382 in the Earth calendar. Based on your contribution to the People's Alliance on Proxima Centauri B, you were selected as the first batch of awakened people. Hope struggled to open her eyes. The discomfort of hibernating for a long time came, and next to my ears, there was the sound of a broadcast that was not very real. A robot slowly came to him and handed him a bulging packaging bag. Fortunately, he had the experience of hibernating for a long time. After a brief daze, he reached out and took the silver white packaging bag. With slightly trembling hands, he opened the seal on the packaging bag, brought it to his mouth, and took a deep breath. The sweet and sour taste instantly activated his taste buds. After ingesting a large amount of high concentration nutrient solution, my originally groggy brain became much clearer. He turned to look at the holographic image on the side. Are we at Gliese 555? Zeros response followed. Yes, Mr. Hope. Next, let me give you a brief introduction. After the words fell, an unfamiliar star system image appeared in the holographic projection. The Gliese 555 star system consists of a red dwarf star and 10 planets. Among them, 4 are gas giant planets and 6 are Earth-like planets. The Human Fleet is on the 6th planet, Dawnstar. Currently, the construction of Dawnstar's first surface-closed city has been completed. Hope stared blankly at the holographic image in front of him, a hint of disappointment flashing in his eyes. Is this the residence that the Human Fleet has found across more than 10 light years, not to mention compared with the Earth? From the appearance alone, it is not even comparable to Proxima Centauri B. He sighed softly and suppressed the complicated emotions in his heart. Forget it. Be content. At least humans now have a place to settle. He had just woken up from a long hibernation and knew nothing about his surroundings at this point. The best way is to ask Zero for help. What should I do now, Hope? Asked Zero in a familiar manner. According to the regulations for the placement of awakened personnel, you can now visit the Homeship number 279. The recommended tour route has been synchronized to your personal terminal. Please check it. After hearing this, Hope immediately raised his wrist and started his watch. A small holographic image then appeared in front of him. Observation deck, restaurant, gravity chamber, bedroom. Looking at the locations marked on the route, Hope frowned. Zero, when can we land? Land on Dawnstar. Since The surface gravity of Dawnstar is 1.9 g. In order to ensure your safety, you need to complete a series of gravity chamber training and be proficient in wearing exoskeleton armor before you can enter the urban life of Dawnstar 1. Hope's eyes moved slightly. He quickly captured the essence of this sentence. He can easily understand the 1.9 g gravity and gravity chamber training point, but exoskeleton armor, since when did humans have this thing? Thinking of all the scenes he had seen in movies before, Hope's breathing suddenly became heavy, especially after seeing the highly technological armor in the holographic projection. His eyes completely changed. Arrange a training session for me immediately, Hope said without hesitation. Feel sorry. To ensure your safety, you need to undergo rehabilitation exercises in the gravity chamber for a week before starting relevant training. Hope's face froze, and he nodded with a grimace. Okay. At worst, wait another week. Suddenly, he seemed to remember something and asked again, by the way, how is my mineral exploration ship? Sorry. Before arriving in the Gliese 555 star system, the human fleet had an encounter with the latter civilization, and your mineral exploration ship was seriously damaged. Hearing this, Hope's expression suddenly changed. What the hell? His ship? His ship is gone. It was not only his job of eating, but also his old companion who had been with him for decades. Before he could speak, Zero quickly added, in order to compensate for your losses, the Alliance Starship Manufacturing Factory will provide you with the latest model mineral exploration ship, and you can continue your work on Proxima B. Hope, who was still a little confused at first, suddenly had a bright smile on his face when he heard the second half of the sentence. Free replacement. Marvelous. He has long disliked that old mineral exploration ship. The size of Dawnstar is much larger than that of Proxima Centauri B, and you can complete more exploration tasks. Please note that Area X of Dawnstar is a high-risk location with super strong hurricanes all year round. Please do not go there without permission. Hurricane. There was an imperceptible complex look in Hope's eyes to this day. He still can't forget the hurricane he experienced as a child. And the Zuan number 2 broke through the violent storm and came to him like a god descending. I still remember that his wish at that time was to become a scientist like Professor Lu. But due to his limited talent, he eventually became a mineral prospector of the Human Union. Although he was not as good as those battleship pilots fighting on the front line, he still made his best contribution to the development of the Human Union. What a pity. Thinking of his lofty ambitions in his childhood, Hope's eyes flashed with a hint of loss. As a mineral prospector, he was undoubtedly one of the top ones. What a pity. Just a mineral prospector. There is still a huge gap from his dream. I wonder if he will have the opportunity to contact the Academy of Sciences in his future life journey. Mr. Hope, your emotions have fluctuated greatly. Do you need medical treatment in the medical cabin? No. Hope took a deep breath, shook his head and said, I just remembered my childhood. Zero did not reply. Half an hour later, Hope, wearing a light and close-fitting spacesuit, walked in the aisle of the home ship. His first stop was the observation deck set up at the tail of the home ship. The overall shape of the viewing platform is a hemisphere protruding from the hull, wrapped in fully transparent glass. In terms of strength, although it is not as strong as the hull made of carbon in material. As a home ship, this small viewing platform will not have much impact on the hull strength when not participating in the battle. Hope stood in the center of the viewing platform and looked at the vast universe outside. First of all, the huge reddish-brown planet came into view. It is also his future residence, Dawnstar. Chapter 433 Experimental. Suddenly, a small reddish-brown planet attracted his attention. Zero. What is that? Hope pointed to a planet in the distance. Aurora's satellite. The holographic projection quickly unfolded. Light Moon 1, the only satellite of Aurora. Looking at the detailed information in the holographic screen, Hope muttered to himself, it looks a bit like the Earth-Moon system. A flash of light interrupted his memory as he looked into the distance. The second flash of light appeared. Zero. Zoom in on this area. After confirming that he was not mistaken, Hope said in a deep voice. The holographic projection screen changed rapidly. Looking at the familiar yet slightly strange warship in the screen, Hope subconsciously narrowed his eyes. Golden Crow battleship. He muttered to himself, "No, there are no protrusions on the surface of the Golden Crow battleship. Zero." Quickly explained, "The target area is conducting experiments related to shield technology. This Golden Crow battleship is a test model, equipped with magnetic field shields and plasma shields. Shield technology." Hope suddenly widened his eyes. Is it the shield technology in his impression? Soon, the picture in the holographic projection told him the answer. High energy ion beam. The first round of salvo. LV. Yongchang's voice came from the number 1 shipboard laboratory of the Earth Point. The moment the voice fell, dozens of Golden Crow battleships around simultaneously activated high-energy ion beam weapons. Because of the pre-charge, there was almost no waiting time, and powerful ion beams rushed directly to the target battleship, a Golden Crow battleship with a large number of hemispherical devices evenly distributed on its surface point. Faced with such a large number of ion beams, if it were a normal Golden Crow battleship, there would be only one outcome point, that is, the aircraft would be destroyed and the crew would die. But obviously, the Golden Crow battleship at the center of the target is not an ordinary battleship. 1 second, 2 seconds. According to calculations, the high energy ion beam has already reached the target area and caused dense damage to the target battleship. But now, the experimental Golden Crow is still quietly staying in the vast universe point. Just by observing with the naked eye, it seems that it has not been attacked at all. But under high precision observation equipment, it is a different picture. Dozens of high energy ion beams rushed towards Golden Crow from all angles at extremely high speeds. But just when it was about to hit, scattered strong magnetic fields appeared on the surface of Golden Crow. Then, the high energy particle beam hit these strong magnetic fields. Under the action of the strong magnetic field, the high energy particle beam deflected and swept across the Golden Crow battleship in a graceful arc. Attention, all units, change the angle. High energy particle beam, second round of volley, third round of volley. The test results appeared in the holographic projection. Total high energy ion beams fired, 1000 beams, 100% interception success rate. Switch weapons, prepare plasma bombs. The first phase of the test was completed quickly. Just looking at the smiles on the faces of the researchers, you can see the performance of the precision magnetic field shield. Professor, compared with the magnetic field shield of the latter civilization, the strength of our magnetic field shield has increased by 50%. On the side, Ko Liangke looked at the experimental data in front of him and said to LV Yongchang with a festive face. LV Yongchang nodded with satisfaction. Get ready, and then test the plasma shield. Attention, all units, countdown to the launch of the electromagnetic gun. 10, 9, 8, fire, and like. High energy particle beams and plasma bombs. The test process of the electromagnetic gun is more violent. In the real battlefield, the attack of the electromagnetic gun often appears in the form of metal storm. Therefore, the experimental Golden Crow battleship faced a massive metal storm. Dozens of Golden Crow battleships, in just a few seconds, tilted tens of thousands of enhanced projectiles towards the target. The so-called enhanced projectile is a combination of plasma bombs and electromagnetic cannon projectiles. When the projectile hits, the high temperature plasma inside will also gush out, causing secondary damage to the target. The metal storm has taken shape. But the experimental Golden Crow battleship did not move at all, just stayed in place quietly. It was like giving up resistance. After a period of waiting, the slow speed flying metal storm finally arrived at the target area. When the distance between the first projectile and the hull was shortened to 5,000 meters, Golden Crow moved. I saw its tail hatch suddenly opened. A large amount of high temperature plasma flashing with golden electric light gushed out from it. The next moment, these dark blue plasmas quickly flowed. In a very short time, they wrapped the entire Golden Crow battleship layer by layer. Unlike the magnetic field shield that is invisible to the naked eye. From the outside, the plasma shield is almost no different from the scenes in science fiction movies. A layer of light blue film distributed in an ellipsoid. It doesn't look very impressive. But but its average temperature reaches more than 3000 degrees Celsius at the same time as the shield was formed. The electromagnetic cannon projectiles from afar also successfully hit its point at the extremely high temperature. These electromagnetic cannon projectiles were quickly melted. A series of explosions appeared on the surface of the shield point after the projectile exploded. The high temperature plasma inside gushed out, trying to cause secondary damage to the ship point. However, under the restriction of the strong magnetic field, these high temperature plasmas became the best supplement for the plasma shield point as the number of electromagnetic cannon projectiles increased. The color of the plasma shield became deeper and deeper. In the laboratory, LV Yongchang and others looked at the holographic screen in front of them with strange expressions. This scene obviously exceeded everyone's expectations. Their electromagnetic cannon projectiles not only could not penetrate the plasma shield, but could even increase the power of the plasma shield in disguise. But obviously, this growth is not unlimited. At least, after experiencing this round of metal storm, many high temperature plasmas have broken free from the constraints of the magnetic field and escaped into the surrounding space. This is a manifestation of insufficient magnetic field strength. Although some unexpected situations occurred, at least the result is good. Tao Yuda stretched out his hand and dragged over a holographic projection, saying with a strange look, "Professor, according to the latest data, the plasma shield perfectly resisted this metal storm, but some of the magnetic field shield generation units are overloaded. Next, in order to deal with this passive increase in shield power, we must increase the power of the magnetic field shield generation unit as much as possible. No, there is another problem." LV Yongchang frowned and said in a low voice, "When the plasma shield was activated, Golden Crow basically lost its attack ability." Chapter 434, Vulnerabilities in the latter CIVILIZATION S magnetic field shield. Shield technology needs to be improved. After hearing what LV Yongchang said, Tao Yuda and Ko Lianke looked at each other helplessly. "Professor, I think this problem is acceptable." Tao Yuda pondered for a while and said again, "At this stage, the plasma shield has extremely high defense power. You also said that it is the last means of saving life." "Yes, Professor." Ko Lianke also persuaded on the side. "If it really comes to the time when you need to activate the plasma shield to save your life, whether you can fight back is actually not important." Faced with the joint persuasion of Tao Yuda and Ko Lianke, LV Yongchang still shook his head firmly. "No, it is true that plasma shields are a means of saving lives, but imagine this. Suppose you participate in an interstellar war, facing the siege of many enemy ships, and you activate the plasma shield at the last minute, but you have no means of counterattack. You can only watch the shield generation units overload and be damaged one by one under the enemy's strong artillery fire. How do you feel when you encounter such a situation?" Tao Yuda and Ko Lianke's faces changed slightly. They looked at each other again, and both saw the guilt in each other's eyes. "Remember." As if he noticed the change in the expressions on the two people's faces, Lu Yongchang slowed down his tone. "This is a technology used in interstellar wars. Even if it can increase the survival rate by 0.01%, we must try our best to improve it. But, Professor, our current weapons cannot penetrate this layer of plasma shield." Ko Lianke spread his hands helplessly. "Unless we imitate the latter flagship." "The flagship of the latter civilization?" Lu Yongchang frowned. Memories gradually came to mind. When confronting the flagship of the latter civilization, the magical gravitational membrane briefly cracked. With the help of this crack, the flagship wrapped in the gravitational shield could launch an attack on the outside world. He suddenly realized. "You mean control the plasma shield to close the area for a short period of time?" Ko Lianke nodded quickly and said, "Yes, this technology is not difficult to achieve. Control a single or several magnetic field shield generation units. The precision magnetic field shield is based on this technology, but there will be a disadvantage." LV Yongchang's face sank, and he continued, "It will affect the overall defense of the plasma shield. Unlike the gravitational shield, the flowing plasma is not easy to control rashly. Adjusting the magnetic field shield generation unit may even cause the plasma shield to become unstable. Even if we overcome the above difficulties, it takes time for the plasma to flow, which will greatly increase the shutdown time and recovery time of the plasma shield. KO. Liang Ke shook his head with a bitter face. Losing a lot of defensive performance for a little attack power is a loss-making behavior. He didn't expect that LV Yongchang could find so many disadvantages in a short time point. However, it is normal. One is a gravitational shield and the other is a plasma shield. The two are naturally incomparable. He sighed softly. This will be troublesome. LV Yongchang did not speak, but frowned as he looked at the Jinwu battleship covered with light blue shields in the holographic screen. Why can't we start with weapons? Tao Yuda's voice came from the side. Weapons? Ko Liang Ke subconsciously retorted. What a joke. What weapon can pass through this layer of plasma safely? Of course it's a weapon with a magnetic field shield. Tao Yuda responded without hesitation. Weapons with magnetic field shields? Are you kidding? As he spoke, Ko Liang Ke's voice gradually became lighter. LV Yongchang frowned and fell into deep thought. You mean add a miniaturized magnetic field shield generation unit to the electromagnetic cannon projectile? Yes. Tao Yuda responded in a short and powerful voice. In theory. LV Yongchang's eyes became brighter and brighter. This is feasible. He and Ko Liang Ke both fell into a blind spot in thinking. Why must the plasma shield give way to weapons? Isn't it enough as long as the weapon can pass through the plasma shield? Suddenly, LV Yongchang's expression froze, and he stood there blankly. He seemed to have discovered the flaws of the magnetic field shield and the plasma shield. No, to be precise, it was the flaws of the magnetic field shield mastered by the latter civilization. The strong magnetic field generated by the shield generation unit of the latter civilization has almost no changes, and all magnetic fields run in the same direction. During the research and development process, the Golden Crow battleship of the latter battleship was referred to a lot, and naturally inherited this feature. Therefore, the enemy only needs to make a few tentative attacks to crack the running direction of the magnetic field shield, and then it can create corresponding weapons to attack the human fleet. Professor, what's wrong with you? Tao You'd noticed the change in LV Yongchang's expression and asked hurriedly, are there any loopholes in this plan? No, it's not a problem with the plan. Thinking of the scenes that may happen in the future battlefield, LV Yongchang's face was pale, and he shook his head repeatedly. The plan is very good. There is no problem. Then, Tao Yuda's eyes were even more confused. It's a problem with the magnetic field shield and the plasma shield. Lu Yongchang said shockingly. They have huge design flaws. As soon as these words came out, the laboratory, which was originally filled with some light discussions, suddenly became extremely quiet. Everyone turned their eyes to LV Yongchang in front of the experimental table. Facing the eyes of everyone, LV Yongchang calmed down and briefly explained his thoughts. Everyone present was an elite of the Academy of Sciences, so they naturally understood LV Yongchang's words quickly. The next moment, the faces of all the researchers changed. If the situation LV Yongchang described really occurred on the battlefield, the human fleet would face a real catastrophe. Why would the latter civilization still use this shield technology with obvious loopholes? A researcher asked the question that everyone was puzzled about. Lu Yongchang's eyes twitched, and he said awkwardly, this question, you might as well take a look at the history of the latter civilization. Most of their wars were fought against some low-level civilizations, such as level 2 or level 1 civilizations. How can these civilizations have experience in dealing with magnetic field shields? As for the few level 3 and level 4 civilization combat experiences, they are basically based on the opponent being severely damaged. What's more, the latter civilization has almost no research and development capabilities of its own, and the emergence of such a major problem is also an inevitable result. Chapter 435. Fortunately, we discovered this problem in time. Speaking of this, LV Yongchang breathed a sigh of relief. This problem is not difficult to solve. Before LV Yongchang could speak, Tao Yuda on the side had a look of realization in his eyes. Professor, do you mean to make the magnetic field move? Yes. LV Yongchang nodded with satisfaction and continued. By adjusting the algorithm, we can make the magnetic field generated by the shield generation unit undergo specific changes. This change is mainly reflected in the direction of the magnetic field. In this way, the magnetic field that constructs the magnetic field shield will continue to change. Unless the enemy cracks our magnetic field shield algorithm, their weapons can only rely on brute force to break through. At the same time, we can synchronize this algorithm to the small shield generation device inside the electromagnetic cannon projectile, just like the verification code. Give the electromagnetic cannon projectile the function of one bullet, one code. In this way, it will neither affect the shield strength nor the warship's counterattack capability. He does not think that the so-called third level or fourth level civilization has the ability to crack the magnetic field shield generation algorithm encrypted by Zero. Perhaps, in future interstellar wars, a large part of the energy will be spent on cracking the opponent's shield generation rules. LV Yongchang looked thoughtfully at the several Golden Crow battleships that were returning home in the holographic screen, and muttered to himself. 1 month later, in the number 3 gravity cabin in the number 279 home ship Point Hope, wearing exoskeleton armor, skillfully completed one test after another. Ding. Test completion rate 99.13%. Congratulations, Mr. Hope. You have successfully passed the test. The unchanging electronic synthesized voice made Hope excited. He asked hurriedly, then, can I go to Dawnstar? As a human from the Earth era, he naturally prefers to live on the surface of the planet compared to the starship Point. Even if the gravity cabin inside the starship can simulate the gravity of the Earth very well, Point, but that is not real gravity after all. Of course, Mr. Hope. Zero's electronic synthesized voice sounded again. If you need to apply to go to Dawnstar City number 1, you need to complete the signing of the following documents. The moment the voice fell, a holographic projection quickly unfolded in front of him. Point in the screen. There were electronic documents. Dawn Star Surface Residence Application Form, Dawn Star Surface Residence Risk Notice. Looking at this densely packed document, Hope felt his eyes twitching wildly twice. Yes, is it necessary? He flipped through the risk notice and asked subconsciously. Of course, Dawn Star's gravity will cause lasting and huge damage to human internal organs. In order to alleviate this symptom, you need to repair your internal organs in the medical cabin for more than 5 hours a day. Hope interrupted Zero's words somewhat helplessly. Of course I know all this. It's a bit too uncomfortable to sleep in the medical cabin every night. Does the Academy of Sciences have any solution to this? Currently, the Academy of Sciences Biological Laboratory is conducting relevant research. Is there any progress? Hope's eyes lit up, and he asked again. Sorry, you don't have enough permission to browse this information. Zero responded without any mercy. Point the light in Hope's eyes gradually faded. Point he shook his head with a wry smile, and raised his hand to sign his name on the document in the holographic projection. Okay. He took a deep breath and turned his head to look at the planet outside the porthole. Zero, send me to Dawnstar. The port gate of the home ship slowly opened. Point as Zuan number 2 sailed out of it and flew straight towards Dawnstar. Hope turned his head curiously and looked towards the porthole. Point through the porthole, he could see the nearby home ships number 278 and number 280. Point like the home ship number 279, the port gates of these two home ships were also open. Pointy could even see that Azuan II also flew out of the port of the home ship number 280. Point looking at the faint blue light at the tail of the Zuan II, Hope's mood became much better. There should be quite a few residents in the city of Dawnstar number 1, right? Maybe he can meet those old friends he hasn't seen for many years. Thinking of this, Hope's eyes rose with anticipation as time passed. The yellow-brown surface outside the porthole gradually occupied the entire porthole. Point, but Hope's attention was not on this desolate planet. Point he stared at the side of Dawnstar. It was an extremely large facility, the planetary spaceport. Point with the help of the telescope equipped on the Zuan II, he could even clearly see the starship parked in the spaceport. Point it was an extremely familiar and peculiarly shaped starship. Isn't this the Golden Crow, equipped with shield technology? Hope muttered to himself, is this undergoing some kind of transformation again? The next moment the peculiarly shaped, golden crow battleship emitted a faint blue flame from its tail and slowly sailed away from the spaceport point. Just as Hope was feeling sorry for not being able to see the golden crow battleship, his attention was attracted by some small black dots in front of him. These densely packed black dots enveloped the entire Dawn Star. What is that? Hope whispered softly, reaching out to adjust the angle of the telescope. The picture gradually became clear. He subconsciously held his breath. They are all satellites. That is the satellite network that covers the entire Dawn Star. Dear passengers, the next stop is Dawn Star. A somewhat stiff electronic synthesized voice sounded, and Hope knew that it was the voice of Yi. Before humans arrived, the surface of Dawn Star was filled with periodic global storms. The storms were extremely powerful. In order to alleviate this situation, under the leadership of Professor L.V. Yongchang, the Academy of Sciences has mastered the technology of planetary climate control. The satellites you see are planetary climate control satellites. With the help of these satellites, the global storm is confined to the X area of Dawn Star. Again, remind you that the X area is a high-risk area. No one is allowed to go to the area without permission, otherwise, the consequences will be at their own risk. Hope stared at the satellite network that was getting closer and closer, and swallowed his saliva subconsciously. Is the Academy of Sciences so powerful now, controlling the planetary climate? The next step should be to transform the environment of the entire planet, right? Hope speculated in his heart. Perhaps one day, this extremely desolate planet can also become like the Earth. Thinking of this, Hope's heart was like a flame. At this moment, his longing for the Academy of Sciences reached an unprecedented level. Chapter 436 Plasma Cannon. Attention, passengers, the starship is about to enter the atmosphere of Dawn. During this period, the starship will experience strong turbulence. This is a normal phenomenon. Please do not panic. Hearing the broadcast, Hope's expression suddenly became serious. He checked the seat belt on his seat as soon as possible. Although the planetary landing technology is very mature, there is basically no possibility of accidents. But thinking that this is a super Earth with a denser atmosphere and stronger gravity, Hope still subconsciously felt a little uneasy. Facts have proved that his uneasiness is unnecessary. Perhaps because of the enhanced performance of the starship, Hope did not feel strong turbulence. Even in Hope's subjective feeling, landing on Dawn seems to be easier and simpler than landing on Proxima b and Ross 154. After entering the atmosphere, the flight trajectory of Zhuan II gradually stabilized. Hope, who specially chose a seat by the porthole, naturally curiously put his head next to the porthole and looked around. There are countless deep or shallow gullies on the yellow-brown land. He could see all kinds of terrain. Mountains, plains, volcanoes. Wait, volcanoes. He quickly moved his gaze back. Looking at the crater below the side of Zhuan II, which was gushing with gurgling red magma, Hope was ecstatic. That's a mineral gathering place. I wonder what fresh mineral resources this alien volcano can bring, Hope thought as he cast his gaze into the distance. The next moment, his attention was attracted by the azure blue. There was a piece of azure water on the vast yellow-brown land. The area of the water was not large, but it still made Hope excited. It seemed that this planet was not so bad. Maybe he would have a chance to see the sea view. Thinking of this, Hope's mouth corners slightly raised, and a satisfied smile appeared in his eyes. Zhuan II flew straight towards the water as time passed. A small bright white hemispherical building was reflected in Hope's eyes. That is a closed city on the surface built by humans. Looking at the extremely familiar building, Hope became more and more excited. He couldn't help but imagine the scenes in the city in his mind. Is the city layout still the same as before? Where will the house he was assigned be? Is there a food street next to it? One question after another jumped out of Hope's mind involuntarily. Standing at the exit of Zhuan II, Hope took a deep breath. Finally, it's here. His consciousness moved slightly. Almost without any delay, the exoskeleton armor on his body drove his body to move. Dang. With heavy footsteps, Hope walked out of Zhuan II Earth number 1 shipboard laboratory. Professor, the test results of the new generation of magnetic field shields and plasma shields are perfect. Tao. Yuda excitedly reported to LV Yongchang the results of a series of tests conducted not long ago. LV Yongchang nodded with satisfaction. But soon, he raised his eyebrows and asked, what about the weapon system? How effective is the newly modified electromagnetic cannon projectile? Tao. Yuda cast his eyes on Ko Liang on the side. That was the project that academician Ko Liang was in charge of. Perfect. Facing the inquiring eyes of LV Yongchang and Tao Yuda, Ko Liang quickly came to his senses and stretched out his hand to drag a holographic image. At present, the electromagnetic cannon projectile can easily enter and exit the magnetic field shield and plasma shield running at full power. And, according to your idea, we added a function to the electromagnetic cannon projectile. After launching, we can remotely control the magnetic field shield generation unit inside the projectile, which can generate small magnetic field shields of different intensities and directions. It's just, the actual combat effect is unknown. Ko Liang spread his hands helplessly. If we can't crack the opponent's shield algorithm, this function actually has no effect. LV Yongchang didn't care much for this kind of additional function. His attitude has always been, I can do without it, but I can't do without it. What's more, cracking the enemy's shield algorithm is not a useless function. If used well, it can be the killer of the human fleet to decide the outcome of the battle. Okay. LV Yongchang clapped his hands and stretched out his hand to open a brand new holographic image. Let's throw the shield technology aside. Next, it's time to consider developing a new weapon system. Ko Liang Tao Yuda. The two of them were stunned. Tao Yuda even reached out to pick his ears, as if he couldn't believe what he heard. Professor, the new weapon system, is it a bit too fast? According to the civilization level classification mechanism you gave before, we have just entered the third level civilization. This is too hasty, right? Ko Liang also echoed, yes, Professor, the construction of the surface of Dawnstar has just begun. Shouldn't we focus on planetary transformation? There are still many people waiting to wake up in hibernation. LV Yongchang didn't speak, but turned his head to look at the portal in the distance. Tao Yuda and Ko Liang looked at each other and followed LV Yongchang's gaze with a puzzled look. Outside the portal was the empty universe. A careful observation revealed that there was a group of small light spots in the vast and deep background of the universe. These light spots kept a certain distance from the Earth and followed the human fleet step by step. Dimensional strike ship. Tao Yuda's voice suddenly became low. Don't forget. LV Yongchang sighed softly. The core of painting is still near us. We don't know when the pastoral school it mentioned will appear in front of us. We don't even know what attitude the so-called pastoral school has towards us. In this environment, without powerful weapons as a guarantee, how can we develop other technologies with peace of mind? After a brief silence, Tao Yuda and Ko Liang turned around and looked at the holographic projection in front of them seriously. However, the helplessness and pain in their eyes were so strong that they were about to overflow. As for Lu Yongchang, he sighed in his heart and said in a deep voice, the magnetic field shield generation unit has brought me some inspiration for new weapons. For a long time, our plasma weapons can only exist in the form of plasma bombs. For a second level civilization, its power is strong enough, but for a third level civilization, it is obviously not enough. Today is different from the past, thanks to the precise control of the magnetic field. Further development of plasma weapons can finally be put on the research and development schedule. Plasma cannon, a close-range high-power shield-breaking weapon. Chapter 437 Starship. Plasma cannon. Looking at the huge muzzle in the holographic projection, Ko Liang's eyes were a little straight. Professor, let me ask first, what is the size of this thing? He swallowed his saliva and said with difficulty, size? LV Yongchang shrugged and reached out to operate the holographic projection again. A muzzle with a diameter of 100 meters? Ko Liang's face was distorted and he exclaimed loudly, are you kidding me? As Soon as he said it, he realized the problem point. He smiled and apologized to LV Yongchang. "Hey, professor, that's not what I meant." As for Tao Yuda on the side, he also had a similar reaction, but he suppressed the urge to swear, and LV Yongchang, smiling at the reactions of the two. To be honest, he was not surprised by such a reaction point. When he saw this extremely violent weapon in the technology tree system at that time, he had the same reaction. "What kind of cannon is this?" "It's just a small starship," Tao Yuda complained in a low voice. "Its size is almost catching up with Zhuan's second." "Right, more than that." Ko Lianke looked at the size above and quickly calculated in his mind. "It's far more than Zhuan's second." LV Yongchang raised his eyebrows. "Hey, how do you know that I designed a starship for this cannon?" Tao Yuda, Ko Lianke, "What? A shocking statement. A starship was specially designed for a cannon." Before the two of them could react, LV Yongchang stretched out his hand and slid the holographic image in front of him. In the holographic screen, or 3D simulation of a new warship appeared. The starship is slender and cylindrical, with a length of 500 meters and a diameter of about 150 meters. Compared with other starships, it is a miniature point, but compared with other weapons, it is a veritable big brother. Tao Yuda and the others quickly focused their attention on the head of the starship. The muzzle of the cannon, with a diameter of 100 meters, almost completely occupied the head space of the starship. "I named it battering ram, as the name suggests," LV Yongchang said excitedly. "Its main function is to violently crack the magnetic field shield or plasma shield of the enemy's secondary flagship and flagship. The cracking principle is very simple. With the help of extremely powerful instantaneous output power, the shield generation device of the enemy ship is quickly overloaded. Therefore, the entire starship has only one weapon, the plasma cannon. The rest of the parts, except for the starship shell, are probably only the large fusion reactor and the whole thrust nozzle." At this point, LV Yongchang shook his head with some regret. "Unfortunately, according to Zero's simulation test, this starship is likely to have only one chance to launch an attack in actual combat, so it can only be controlled by Zero." Tao Yuda looked at the starship with seriously unbalanced proportions in the picture, and his mouth twitched wildly. "Can this be called designing a starship? It's better to change the description method. We ingeniously installed an engine on the cannon, so that it can fly freely in the universe. This statement may be more appropriate." Tao Yuda was madly complaining about what LV Yongchang did in his heart. "So, what is the working principle of this plasma cannon?" Tao Yuda took a deep breath and changed the topic to another direction. "Is it still a plasma bomb?" "Of course not." As if he felt questioned, LV Yongchang's tone of voice was obviously raised by 1 degree. "What? A joke? I didn't build such a big thing to launch a few pitiful plasma bombs with low power." Looking at the puzzled eyes of Ko Lianke and Tao Yuda, LV Yongchang slowed down his tone and explained. "Cannon. The ratio of the length of the barrel to the caliber is large. Overall, its barrel is thin and long." As soon as this was said, Ko Lianke and Tao Yuda's faces suddenly became strange. The two of them cast their eyes on the holographic screen in front of them. "You call a barrel with a diameter of 100 meters thin?" Moreover, they didn't see how long the so-called gun barrel was. "Hey, professor, this gun barrel is different from what you said," Ko Lianke said with embarrassment. "Did you say it wrong?" Ko Lianke's questioning made Lu Yongchang's excitement increase again. He waved his hand. "Who said the gun barrel is not long?" The holographic screen switched instantly. "The entire gun barrel is composed of a continuous magnetic field. The overall length can reach more than 100 kilometers. What you see is just the base of the cannon." Numb. Ko Lianke and Tao Yuda said that they were completely numb. "What kind of wild idea is this?" Lu Yongchang obviously did not give the two people time to buffer and continued to introduce plasma cannon. As the name suggests, its ammunition is extremely powerful plasma, that is, high temperature plasma flow. The barrel composed of a magnetic field can smoothly restrain these plasma flows and even provide them with a constant stream of acceleration, making them faster. As He spoke. The holographic projection image changed again. A translucent barrel gradually extended outward from the turret point in the blink of an eye. The so-called barrel reached a length of 100 kilometers in comparison. The turret at the end of the barrel has become a sesame-sized black dot. This time, it is indeed as LV Yongchang said. The barrel length and caliber ratio is large. Tao Yuda held his forehead with his hand. He felt that his worldview had been severely impacted. He said with difficulty, "Professor, how are you going to make such a long magnetic field barrel?" Our magnetic field shield generation unit cannot be effective at such a long distance. Good question, LV. Yongchang shouted and slid the holographic image again. Remember our previous drone swarm. With just a little modification, they can become mobile magnetic field shield generation units. Simply put, these drone swarms are our barrels. Tao Yuda's pupils trembled slightly, and he swallowed hard. This is too crazy. Yes, crazy. This is the only adjective in the minds of Tao Yuda and Ko Liang K. LV Yongchang shrugged and said noncommittally, maybe this weapon is a little crazy, but its power can definitely meet our imagination. At present, its only disadvantage is its short range. Even if it relies on the magnetic field of the drone to form the barrel, its maximum range is only about 100 kilometers. Therefore, its scope of application is greatly limited. However, in a sense, it fits the name I gave it. Ko Liang K and Tao Yuda suddenly realized. Battery ram, as the name suggests, it should indeed be a close-range shield-breaking weapon. Chapter 438. Is it possible that there is something wrong with my exploration ship? The number one city on the surface of Dawnstar. The familiar road distribution and familiar street trees made Hope feel in a trance. If it weren't for the exoskeleton armor he was wearing, and the slight swelling feeling in his abdomen, he would have thought he was still living in Ross 154. He followed his memory, and found the house that belonged to him. Standing at the door of the room. He took a deep breath, and reached out to hold the door handle. A holographic image quickly unfolded. Biometric authentication in progress. Palm print confirmed. Iris confirmed. Face recognition confirmed. Welcome home, Mr. Hope. The familiar gentle electronically synthesized female voice made Hope feel her heart tremble slightly. That's his home smart butler Likey. They both belong to weak artificial intelligence and are under the jurisdiction of Zero. Is this built by Zero? He asked with a slightly trembling voice. As soon as he finished speaking, he came back to his senses. What are you talking about? Who else could have built this city but Zero? He quickly changed his words and said, I mean, the layout of Dawnstar City 1 seems to be similar to Ross 154 City 1. Yes, Mr. Hope. The home smart butler responded quickly. For the sake of convenience and to give people a better sense of belonging, the drawings of Ross 154 were directly used when building this city. Only the Academy of Sciences and some important places were redesigned. Hope suddenly realized. Understood. The main thing is to save trouble. That's right. Having just arrived in his new home, and faced with the heavy construction tasks, Zero's computing power must be very tight. Hey, Hope. Just as Hope was standing at the gate thinking wildly, a familiar voice interrupted his thoughts. He turned around sharply and looked in the direction of the sound. I saw a blond man standing not far away, smiling and waving to him. Hanson, your boy's here too. Hope was surprised and happy to see his old friend, and he hurriedly waved and shouted loudly. Obviously, the man named Hanson was not very satisfied with Hope's reaction. He immediately turned down his face and pretended to be angry. Say, Hope, are you treating an old comrade you haven't seen in 100 years like this? What do you mean I'm here too? In terms of contribution value, I'm not lower than you. Why can't I be among the first to wake up? Listening to this familiar accent, Hope suddenly showed a smile on his face. He apologized repeatedly. Sorry, it was just an accident. Then, he waved to Hanson. Come to my house and have a chat. Strictly speaking, we haven't seen each other for 100 years. There are many people in city number 1 now. Hope reached out to take the teacup handed over by the robot and asked softly, it seems like how many days have it been since you arrived? Hearing this, Hanson raised his head and nodded with dignity. Of course, I have passed a series of tests on the exoskeleton armor. Probably. We entered city number 1 a week ago. Hope smiled and nodded in agreement with Hansen. Point as an old comrade who has been with him for decades. Hope naturally knows Hansen's character very well. Point. Although his personality is a bit flamboyant, he is still reliable when encountering big problems. As for people. After showing off, Hansen returned to the topic and shrugged helplessly. Actually, there aren't many people. You should have realized when you came here just now that there were almost no people on the street. After all, only a small number of people have been revived now. Besides, there are still many awakened personnel who have not passed the test of exoskeleton armor. Hope nodded, not much surprised by the answer. Don't worry, cities 2 and 3 are already under construction. He patted Hansen on the shoulder and comforted softly. When the second and third batches of people wake up, the city will become lively. Hansen shrugged nonchalantly, as if he didn't seem to care much about the city's population. Point. The next moment, he put his head next to Hope, his face full of encouragement, and whispered, "Let's not talk about the problem of urban population. How about it? Are you interested in going out for a walk? You should have seen it when you came. Right there are many active volcanoes on this planet. While there are not many people around now, let's strike first and try to cover the surrounding area." Hearing this, Hope felt his heart skip a beat. Point. Seemingly seeing the agitated expression on Hope's face, Hansen moved closer again. This opportunity cannot be missed, and it will never come back again. Don't forget, this is a brand new planet. Do you want to waste your precious time on deserted streets? Crack. Hope reached out and slapped the coffee table in front of her. "Stop talking. I'll go. Time tomorrow." The corner of Hansen's mouth rose quickly, and he knew that, like him, Hope was not easygoing. Point. As he spoke, he opened his watch and clicked a few times on the small holographic projection. "I have already declared it to the city management center. It is now 10:21 in the morning, and the results are expected to be available this afternoon. I've thought about it. Our first stop is to go to the crater." Thinking of the huge crater he saw on Zuan's second, Hope gradually became excited. Point. He quickly turned on his watch and skillfully submitted an application to the city management center to leave the city. Point. The reason, of course, was to go out to explore minerals as grassroots employees of grassroots institutions under the Academy of Sciences. The city management center generally would not reject their applications. By the way, Hansen suddenly thought of something and asked casually, "Your mineral exploration ship should still be there, right? I heard that when the human fleet was heading to the Gliese 555 star system, it encountered a pirate civilization. A great war broke out at that time, and many starships suffered from it." The smile on Hope's face instantly became stiff. Point. It seems maybe his starship is one of them. Hey, brother, is it true? Seeing Hope's expression, Hansen was a little panicked. "Calm down. Don't you still have yours?" Hope's mouth twitched, and he waved his hand nonchalantly and said, "I'll take your mineral exploration ship tomorrow." "Is there a possibility that my exploration ship also has problems?" Hansen said in a faint tone. "Otherwise, why do you think I stayed here for a whole week?" "Hope, Mr. Hope." The voice of the family smart housekeeper broke the slightly stiff atmosphere between the two. The Human Alliance Starship Manufacturing Factory sent a message. "Your Type 6 mineral exploration ship has arrived at dock number 6 of city number 1 on Dawnstar. Please go and check it." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 439, The Central Volcano of A2 Plane on Dawnstar. Hope breathed a sigh of relief. Then, he raised his eyebrows at Hansen beside him. "Now, we have a boat." After a brief silence, "No, this is not scientific. Why did your ship arrive before mine?" It's the latest Type 6 exploration ship." Hope smiled broadly and shrugged. "Who knows, maybe Zero likes me and puts my order in front of you." After saying that, he turned around and walked towards the door. He wanted to go out and relax in the next moment. Point behind him. Hansen's shrill wail came. Point the next day. Point a small starship with a length of only 50 meters slowly left the Dawn Star City number 1. Hey, bro, wrong route. Hansen's shouting voice came from the side. The volcano is on the other side. You are going the wrong way. Hope glanced at the satellite map and said with a smile, it's not the wrong way. Before prospecting, I want to go and see the water area next to city number 1. The mineral exploration ship slowly landed on a huge reef. Point reefs like this can be seen everywhere near the shore of the water. Huge rocks divide this area of water into small lakes. Although it is a lake, its average depth is more than 50 meters. As for the central area of the water, the maximum depth there even exceeds 500 meters, which can be called a small ocean. Laugh. With the sound of airtightness, the hatch of the mineral exploration ship slowly opened. Point Hope, wearing a spacesuit, carefully jumped off the exploration ship, walked to the edge of the reef, and stared at the blue water below. Point he raised his head, looked at the huge moon above his head, and said softly, it seems that I have to take back my original opinion. What? Hansen's voice came from the team's communication channel. This planet is quite beautiful. Hope leaned down, sat on the rock, and reached out to turn on the radio function of the helmet. Point the sound from the outside world was transmitted to his ears through sensors and circuits. The sound of the waves and the gentle wind made his eyes transfer a while. Point looking at the blue water in front of him. Long-standing memories once again appeared in his mind. Point. That was not a good memory. Call Hope stood up, turned his head, and glanced at the water behind him with a complicated expression, and whispered, let's go to the crater. A 2-plain central volcano, as its name suggests, is located in the central area of a 2-plane. Point it was like a bulging pustule, standing extremely abruptly on the vast plain. Point gurgling lava slowly flows out of the crater, brazenly showing to others how active the planet's core is. A mineral exploration ship drew a graceful curve and landed on its mountainside. Point according to Hansen, they should land directly near the crater, which is the most efficient approach. Point, but Hope refused the offer without hesitation. Point according to information provided by the Academy of Sciences, this is an active volcano with the possibility of erupting at any time. This can be seen from the continuous gush of lava from the crater. He didn't want this new spaceship to challenge the power of nature, so the two of them drove a mineral exploration vehicle, starting from the mountainside and heading towards the crater. The composition of magma is slightly different from that of the Earth. Hansen skillfully operated the instruments in the car and completed the sampling inspection. It's just the same. It's basically composed of silicate. The heavy metal content is slightly higher. This should be considered good news, Hansen said with a smile. After such a long time, there should be some heavy metal minerals near this volcano. Hope nodded and carefully operated the mechanical arm to grab a yellow solid, sulfur. Hansen glanced at it and said again, it seems that there are quite a lot of reserves. The Academy of Sciences should be quite interested in these. Hope rigorously analyzed the composition of the yellow solid. It's not just sulfur, there's also some chloride and sulfide. These volcanoes can provide the human league with a lot of industrial supplies. The two took samples while driving the vehicle along the path of the magma flow. Etc. Hope's eyes lit up, and he hit the brakes before Hansen could speak. He controlled the manipulator again to complete a series of samples, copper, nickel, and a little bit of gold. Get ready to detect the reserves. I have a hunch that this is a big guy. Earth perhaps. It was because a plan proposed by Yongchang inspired Tao Yu to point in the next few days. Tao Yu kept frowning, seeming to be thinking about something. Yongchang was happy to see such a scene. He is only one person after all. Even with the help of the technology tree system, he can only bring the most cutting-edge technological progress to human civilization. As for other various branch technologies, they have to be completed by other scientists. Plasma cannons are not difficult to make. With several key technologies being solved, the first generation plasma cannon was quickly produced. The new starship carrying the plasma cannon was naturally formed at the same time. After being assembled, the new battleship named Battery Ram, under Zero's control, came to the weapon test site. It is called a weapon test site but it is actually a space far away from the human fleet, and the Dawn Star, the experimental target, is naturally the Golden Crow battleship equipped with magnetic field shield and plasma shield point in front of the Golden Crow battleship with a size of more than 1,500 meters. The battery ram, which is only 500 meters long, seems to be inconspicuous, at least at first glance. The two are not of the same order of magnitude. Let's start the experiment. Yongchang stood in front of the holographic projection and gave an order. Battery ram releases the drone group. 4 huge holes suddenly cracked on the side of the cylindrical battery ram. That is the port of the siege ram point. Countless small drones equipped with magnetic field shield generation units swarmed out of it point under Zero's control. These drones quickly drove towards the front of the battery ram. Small in size and unmanned, the mobility of these drones has been improved to the extreme point. It took only a few seconds for a small number of drones to reach their positions. The next moment, the magnetic field shield generation unit was activated. An invisible gun barrel composed of a strong magnetic field appeared in front of the battering ram. As for the other drones, they turned on the magnetic field shield and slowly circled around the battering ram and the gun barrel point. Their main function is to provide some of the only defense for this high attack and low defense warrior. In addition, they can also replenish the loss of the gun barrel under enemy attacks at any time. Chapter 440. The power of the battering ram is not used to attack those scattered magnetic field shields from the beginning of its design. It has been positioned as a strategic weapon that can win or lose with one strike point. Therefore, facing the coming attack, Yongchang directly issued the order without any hesitation. Golden Crow activates the plasma shield. As the words fell, the light of the hull thruster at the rear of the Golden Crow battleship dimmed instantly. A large amount of energy is quickly transferred to the magnetic field generating unit. At the same time, its rear hatch quickly opened, and blue high temperature plasma spurted out from it. Under the influence of the magnetic field, this plasma enveloped the entire Golden Crow battleship like a layer of eggshells. Got up. This is the strongest defensive state of the Golden Crow battleship. Before the appearance of the battering ram, even the human fleet itself would have to spend a lot of effort to break this turtle shell. Professor, the battering ram is ready to attack at any time. Zero's reminder sounded in the office. Start attacking, Yongchang said in a deep voice. As Yongchang's order was issued, a dazzling light lit up in the dark and deep universe. Inside the battering ram, a large number of nuclear fusion reactors that are enough to drive 3 Golden Crow battleships are at full power at this moment. All the energy generated rushes toward the front muzzle of the battering ram. A faint blue light began to appear at the muzzle point. The next moment, before anyone could react, endless plasma spurted out from the muzzle. Under the strong magnetic field channel constructed by the drone, these plasmas continue to accelerate. 100 kilometers of accelerating tubes allow these high temperature plasmas to reach an incredible speed, like a flash of blue lightning. This blue plasma column with a diameter of 100 meters spurted out from the mouth of the invisible barrel constructed by the magnetic field. At the same time, the light of the whole propulsion device at the tail of the battering ram gradually went out. The part of the hull near the muzzle has even been slightly deformed. Part of the remaining blue plasma, carrying a golden electric glow, slowly seeped out from the surface of the ship's hull, destroying the already weak ship's hull. It was scrapped. Under such overloaded operation, it can only send out this only one bombardment in its life. But no one cares about this. Everyone's attention is on the swan song it emits. In an instant, a faint blue lightning struck the light blue plasma shield near the Golden Crow battleship. At first, due to the impact of a large amount of external plasma, the color of the plasma shield suddenly became a lot darker from the original light blue. It turned into an overloaded dark blue. Of course, this is only a matter of moment. In the next moment, the overloaded magnetic field shield generating units chose to strike collectively. They were overloaded. The plasma that initially circled around the Golden Crow lost the restraint of the magnetic field and was thrown out in a tangential direction in all directions against the background of the deep, dark universe. These plasmas form an extremely brilliant picture. At this time, the Golden Crow Battleship is like a hedgehog with explosive hair. However, unlike normal hedgehogs, the spikes on the body of this large hedgehog are filled with extremely powerful plasma. This is far from over. There is even more than half of the powerful plasma column from the battering ram left after the magnetic field shield generation unit went off. The remaining plasma columns rushed straight towards the Golden Crow battleship. Without a magnetic field shield, Golden Crow could only pin its hopes on its thick armor. Obviously point for a plasma column with a diameter of 100 meters. This thick armor is no different from paper. The blue plasma column barely stagnates and sinks directly into the head of the Golden Crow battleship. After a short wait, a small amount of plasma spurted out from the tail of Golden Crow, penetrating injury. A powerful explosion of fire appeared in the dim universe. Instant kill. Although the battering ram only launched one attack, the power of this attack deeply shocked the hearts of everyone in the laboratory. His Tao Yuda, who was standing next to Yongchang, took a deep breath. How's it going? Isn't it pretty powerful? Yongchang turned his head and said with a smile, yes, it's pretty good. Tao Yuda responded with a somewhat difficult tone and nodded. It's a pity that it can only attack once. Speaking of this, Tao Yuda glanced at the battering ram that had turned into a large piece of scrap metal with some regret. If we can have more powerful materials, maybe we can. No need, Yongchang said softly. What? Tao Yuda was stunned, unable to react for a while. During the construction process of the battering ram, I specially reduced its armor thickness and hull strength. Yongchang shrugged and said nonchalantly, in the design, it is a disposable weapon. That's not going to change even with stronger materials. Why? Tao Yuda couldn't accept this statement. At the beginning, he thought all this was in pursuit of higher attack power, but Yongchang's statement completely rejected his speculation. Why? Yongchang chuckled. Do you think, in a real interstellar war, the other side will let this thing fire a second shot? Even with the protection of the drone group, the energy storage time of several seconds is enough for the Golden Crow battleship to tear it into pieces. Tao Yuda's face was full of astonishment. It seems quite reasonable. He looked at the wreckage in the holographic projection thoughtfully, as if he had gained some inspiration from such weapon design. Professor, do you know ball lightning? Tao Yuda muttered to himself with some excitement in his eyes. Yongchang was stunned. Ball lightning? That strange physical phenomenon in the Earth era. A little long lost memory emerged in his mind. It was a thunderstorm. An orange-red fireball was flying against the wind in the air. It drew a strange and graceful curve and drilled into the room of the institute through the window gap. Boom. After a loud bang. The fireball exploded. That accident caused the institute to suffer a lot of losses. Of course I know. Yongchang said with some nostalgia. I remember that many people were studying this magical natural phenomenon at that time. Now, it seems that it is a bit similar to our plasma weapons. Yes. Tao Yuda nodded repeatedly. Just like a plasma group wrapped in a strong magnetic field. Since we can use a battering ram as a disposable weapon, why can't we use a drone it carries as a disposable weapon? No, not just the battering ram. It can also be used on every warship. Yongchang's expression moved slightly. He seemed to understand the meaning of Tao Yuda's words. You mean design the drone as a disposable plasma shell? No, not a shell. Tao Yuda's expression became more and more excited. To be precise, it should be a missile. Under Zero's control, these drones wrapped in plasma can fully achieve full range guidance and carry out precise strikes on targets. Chapter 441. Yongchang quickly deduced it briefly in his mind. Theoretically, he nodded calmly. This is feasible. The transformation is not difficult. After passing the test, it can be used as one of the standing weapons of the human fleet. Professor Zero's holographic image appeared aside. There is news about you from the biology laboratory. Hearing this, Yongchang's expression suddenly became serious. He pondered for a moment and said to Tao Yuda, you will be responsible for this research project. I have to go to the biology lab. It is estimated that the human enhancement project has made a breakthrough. The door to the biology shipboard laboratory suddenly opened, revealing the scene inside. The first thing that catches the eye are 5 huge transparent cylindrical containers. The cylindrical container is approximately 2 meters high and is large enough to accommodate an adult human being. The container is filled with a light yellow solution. As expected, it should be a highly concentrated nutrient solution. It seems that the experiment has reached the final step. Yongchang's eyes flashed with joy and he stepped into the biology laboratory. Professor, this way, thanks. To Ling's reminder, Mao Zengzi immediately discovered Yongchang, who entered the laboratory. He quickly put down the less important work in his hands and trotted towards Yongchang, ready to start human experiments. Yongchang raised his chin and motioned to the 5 large jars next to him calmly. Have all the animal experiments passed, Mao? Zengzi nodded quickly and reached out to summon a holographic projection. Rat, monkey, chimpanzee. For safety reasons, all possible experiments have been done. It works very well, and so far we haven't noticed any unusual reactions. Where are the genes? Yongchang asked quickly. The genetic genes of every experimental animal are not contaminated, Mao Zengzi said with joy. That's why I decided to start human experiments. After all, the number 2 and number 3 cities on the surface of Dawnstar are under construction. Naturally, the sooner the human body enhancement project can be carried out, the better. Have you found the experimental subject? Yongchang asked softly as he walked towards the experimental table. Certainly, Mao. Zengzi subconsciously lowered his voice. They are all death row prisoners who have committed crimes against humanity. They were deprived of all the rights that humans have. During Ross 154, they were forced into hibernation in order to cope with experimental projects that may be needed in the future. Yongchang nodded to express his understanding. He also heard about the crimes committed by this group of people. It's nothing more than trying to send some inappropriate information to painting, but they obviously forgot one thing. All electronic equipment in the human fleet is under zero surveillance. Then there was no surprise. They were arrested just as they were about to put their ideas into action. These capitulationists will not regret dying. Yongchang narrowed his eyes in disgust. Let's start the experiment, Mao. Zengzi nodded and gestured to the scientific researchers in the distance. Looking at the experimental scene not far away, Yongchang frowned. When the experiment is over and all tests are completed, give them peace of mind. Don't leave any consequences. Human civilization does not need this kind of scum, Mao. Zengzi nodded solemnly. Don't worry, guaranteed. Nothing will go wrong. A few days later, Professor, look. Mao Zengzi stood in front of a cylindrical container and unfolded the holographic image responsible for monitoring vital signs. According to the inspection data sent back by the nanorobot, momentum has appeared on the surface of some of their internal organs. Not only that, but their muscle strength is also greatly enhanced. Conservative estimates suggest that at present, their physical fitness should be more than doubled. Yongchang carefully observed the data on the holographic projection and nodded silently. According to the data, the success of the human enhancement experiment should be a matter of time. But biological experiments are always full of surprises. Therefore, until the last second, Yongchang did not dare to let go of his high heart. How long will it take until the strengthening is completed, Mao? Zengzi glanced at the experimental records. Just got my 4th dose of booster hormone this morning. If we look at experimental data from chimpanzees and monkeys, it will take about 3 days. 3 days flew by. While waiting for the experimental results, good news came from laboratory number 1. Tao Yuda successfully completed the modification of the drone and passed a series of tests. Plasma missiles have also become one of the common weapons of the human fleet. To commemorate it, Tao Yuda named it Ball Lightning, true to its name. The modified drone, after releasing a large amount of plasma does indeed look like ball lightning from the Earth's age point. However, it is larger, lasts longer, and is more powerful. Moreover, under Zero's control, the flight trajectories of these large ball lightnings were even more bizarre. The extremely high mobility means that it will be the main output weapon in the interstellar battlefield. However, the resource consumption of war is even greater, whether it is ball lightning or battering ram. They are all disposable consumables. This means that once the human fleet encounters an interstellar war, Zero will face an extremely severe test of productivity. Fortunately, the new generation of optical quantum computers of Academician Yongchang have passed the preliminary test. It is estimated that it will not take much time for the productivity level of human civilization to rise several levels again. Professor, an experimenter has woken up and has been sent to a separate gravity cabin. Mao Zedong's words interrupted Lu Yongchang's thoughts. Let's go and take a look. Lu Yongchang's eyes lit up. Finally waited. He quickly untied the electromagnetic absorption device on the seat and followed Mao Zedong to the direction of the experimental table. The huge holographic projection showed the scene inside the gravity cabin. Chapter 442. Freeman, born from Proxima B. Mao Zedong's introduction voice came from the side. He was the mastermind of that incident. My physical fitness is pretty good. I completed all the strengthening programs so quickly. Lu Yongchang raised his eyebrows and asked casually, what test are you going to do next? Will he cooperate with this experiment? Mao Zedong was silent for a moment, then nodded. I believe he will cooperate. Before the experiment, I told them that, as long as the experiment was successful, they would be acquitted. Although this sentence is not very credible, and they probably don't believe it very much, any living being will pursue it vigorously when faced with the only way to survive. This is an instinct ingrained in genes, and cannot be escaped. Lu Yongchang said nothing, and turned to look at the holographic screen in front of him. The gravity chamber rotates slowly. Equivalent gravity 0.5 g. In the picture, the man named Freeman lay motionless in the gravity chamber with his eyes closed. For this experiment, Mao Zedong even asked Zero to make a special gravity chamber similar to the gravity chamber used for experimental animals. This gravity chamber can achieve an equivalent gravity of up to 7 g. Unlike the large gravity cabins equipped on starships, due to material problems, the internal space of this gravity cabin is not large. It can only accommodate one person at a time, and there are not many facilities inside. Just from the appearance, it is impossible to tell that this is a criminal who has committed serious crimes against humanity. He was injected with a large amount of sedatives. Mao Zedong's explanation came from the side. After the strengthening was completed, his physical fitness was much higher than before. This was also done to prevent accidents. Lu Yongchang nodded to express his understanding. Indeed, for this group of powerless researchers in the laboratory, Freeman, who has completed all the strengthening work, is undoubtedly a dangerous existence. Although they are protected by Zero-sum robots, if something unexpected happens, neither Lu Yongchang nor Mao Zedong can accept it. Prepare to start experiments. All units should pay attention. Mao Zedong turned on the microphone and gave the order in a deep voice. Prepare to wake up the experimental subjects. After the words fell, a silver-white mechanical hand slowly reached out to Freeman. The needle penetrated his vein with precision. After a few minutes, Freeman opened his eyes with difficulty. He did not get up immediately, but rolled his eyes to look at the completely unfamiliar environment. The next moment, he seemed to be aware of the existence of gravity. He gently raised his hand and tested it. After several confirmations, his muscles tensed up, and he tried to stand up from the ground. Bang! A loud noise came through the microphone into the biology laboratory. That was the sound of Freeman hitting the ceiling of the gravity chamber. The impact was obviously not light. Freeman grinned and rubbed his shoulders, carefully controlling his body to return to the ground. Record. Mao Zedong looked at the picture in the holographic projection seriously. Body control has dropped significantly. Then he reached for the microphone on the side and turned on the switch. Do you remember who you are? The moment the voice came out, Freeman's expression changed drastically. Mao Zedong Freeman looked at the camera on the side, as if facing a powerful enemy, and shouted loudly, "What did you do to me? Have you forgotten?" Mao Zedong raised his eyebrows, and continued to ask. Freeman was silent for a moment, lowered his head, and looked at his body. Perhaps he was shocked by the slender muscles on his body, but his face was filled with extremely complex expressions: shocked, confused, worried. After a long time, his tense body relaxed a little. "Is this the human enhancement experiment you are talking about?" As he spoke, he waved his fist. "It feels good. It is indeed much stronger than before. Record, consciousness is clear, and memory is in good condition." Mao Zedong turned his head and said to the scientific researchers on the side, "Hey." Apparently, Freeman also heard Mao Zedong's words. He shouted with some dissatisfaction, "What on earth do you want me to do? Don't forget what you told me at the time. As long as I complete this experiment, I can acquitted." Mao Zedong interrupted Freeman. "Of course I remember, provided you cooperate with our next test. How should I trust you?" Freeman, who knew that he had completed the body enhancement experiment, raised the corners of his mouth slightly, sat down on the ground and asked calmly, "Watch your attitude. You are not qualified to negotiate terms with us now, Mao Zedong." Frowned and shouted sharply. Freeman curled his lips, obviously not taking Mao Zedong's scolding to heart. He looked at his surroundings again. "Where is my companion? They haven't completed their human enhancement experiments yet, Mao Zedong said nothing. Freeman got the answer from the silence and raised the corner of his mouth again. "In other words, I'm now the only experimenter who has completed human enhancement. You don't have any backup options besides me." Mao Zedong frown deepened. This scene was somewhat beyond his expectations. Of course there are other options. Yongchang reached out and took the microphone from Mao Zedong and said in a deep voice, "In addition to you, there are 2 other people who have completed the human enhancement experiment. You have 2 options now. 1. Be thrown out of the starship and become a space junk. 2. Obey our orders and complete all tests." Freeman's face flashed a trace of surprise. "Who are you? Where is Mao Zedong? After completing the test, can I be acquitted? Does what you say count?" Yongchang's tone became more severe. "Correct your attitude. You just need to tell me your choice." Silence. In the picture, Freeman fell into silence. From his frowning brows, Yongchang could see that he was constantly considering the situation outside. 10 seconds. Yongchang shouted again without any hesitation, "Tell me your choice." 0. Get ready. If he doesn't answer in 10 seconds, throw him out of the earth. Received. Zero's electronic synthesized voice sounded in the laboratory and the gravity cabin. 9, 8, 7. Wait. Are you Yongchang? Freeman suddenly figured out something. His eyes widened, and he shouted loudly, 3, 2. The only response he got was a cold countdown from 0 to "I choose to." Looking at the silver-white mechanical hand grabbing him, Freeman's eyes were full of fear and he shouted loudly. The mechanical hand stopped only 10 centimeters away from him. Chapter 443 Human Enhancement Experiment Successful. "Very good, Lu." Yongchang nodded with satisfaction, turned his head, and said to Mao Zedong beside him, "Get ready to start the experiment." Wait. Freeman's voice came again. Are you Professor Lu Yongchang?" "So, what?" Lu Yongchang responded in a cold tone. "Then, can you guarantee it?" Unlike before, there was a bit of pleading in Freeman's voice at this time. "Academician Mao Zedong once promised me that, as long as I complete the test, I will be pardoned." Lu Yongchang looked at the holographic image in front of him again, and said word by word, "Remember, you do not enjoy any human rights now. You are not qualified to let me deceive you specifically. I will think about it once the testing is complete." In the picture, Freeman lowered his head and fell into silence. Judging from his clenched fists, Freeman was obviously not in a calm mood. "Start testing." Lu Yongchang ignored it and gave the order bluntly. "Professor." Mao Zedong turned off the microphone and looked at the holographic projection with some worry. "If you do this, will Freeman? On the contrary." Lu Yongchang shook his head. "I said this so he would cooperate with the test. Seeing the confusion in Mao Zedong's eyes, Yongchang explained softly, "Don't you see? He never believed that he could be acquitted. In that case, I don't need to lie to him. Just let's talk. You see, compared to just now, his desire to survive is obviously much stronger now." Yongchang shook his head with emotion. "Human, that's it. I didn't make any promises to him, but he would subconsciously deceive himself." Mao Zedong shuddered slightly as he looked at Freeman, whose mental condition was gradually improving in the picture. The gravity chamber began to slowly accelerate. The equivalent gravity value in the holographic screen quickly reached 1.5 G. "Freeman, how do you feel?" Mao Zedong asked seriously. At this time, Freeman seemed extremely submissive, driven by his desire to survive. After feeling it carefully, he frowned and said, "I don't feel anything else, just that my body is a little heavier. By the way, I'm a little dizzy. Does that count?" Mao Zedong's mouth twitched. He had never seen Freeman so talkative since the beginning of the experiment. "Dizziness is normal. The motion sickness medicine is in your pocket. Just take it, and you'll be fine." A few hours later, equivalent gravity 2.5 G. In the holographic screen, Freeman frowned, holding his knees with both hands, his body hunched and breathing heavily. "How does it feel?" "There is an obvious feeling of distension in the abdomen. The body is very heavy, and I can't stand up." "Keep going." Equivalent gravity 3 G. Duration 1 hour. At this time, Freeman was already sitting on the ground of the gravity chamber. His face was slightly pale, but the skin on his hands and feet was particularly rosy. It was obvious that under the strong gravity, the blood flow in his body had been disrupted. "Can you still hold on?" Mao Zedong asked softly. "It's not bad," Freeman said with difficulty. "It's a little difficult to breathe, and my vision is a little blurry. Can I lie down?" Academician Mao, no response. After struggling for a moment, Freeman lay directly on the ground. Call after distributing the pressure, he breathed a sigh of relief. As for Mao Zedong, after observing the data sent back by the nanoroboot, he turned off the microphone directly. "Keep accelerating." Extreme testing. The gravity chamber began to accelerate again. 3.1 G. 3.2 G. Freeman in the holographic screen had a normal expression at first. But he soon realized the problem. Compared with just now, the acceleration of the gravity cabin is extremely rapid at this time, but at this time, he had lost the ability to resist. The increasingly powerful equivalent gravity pressed him firmly to the floor. In the picture, Freeman's face turned red and his mouth opened and closed, as if he was roaring something. 48 hours later, the first experiment was declared over in the holographic screen. The robot is cleaning the dirt in the gravity cabin. What was the result of the experiment? Yongchang withdrew his gaze and calmly asked Mao Zedong beside him. "The effect is outstanding," Mao Zedong said excitedly. During the test, Freeman's internal organs showed some abnormalities only under the equivalent gravity of 2 G. As he spoke, he dragged the small holographic screen on the side to Yongchang. "Professor, look, only when the equivalent gravity exceeds 3 G, Freeman's internal organs undergo substantial deformation, but with the support of the visceral momentum, it can still work normally. Only when the equivalent gravity exceeded 3.5 G did Freeman's internal organs suffer serious damage. As for the muscles, the strengthened muscles are enough to support normal life in a 2.5 G gravity environment." Speaking of this, Mao Zedong became more and more excited. "Professor, the experiment was successful. Enhanced humans can live normally on the surface of Dawnstar. Not only that, the performance of manned starships can also be further released." LV Yongchang carefully looked at the data and charts in the holographic screen, trying to find possible loopholes. A few minutes later, he finally smiled on his originally solemn face. "Very good. The next few experimenters don't need to undergo extreme tests. 0. Make room for a large gravity cabin for them, and adjust the equivalent gravity to 2 G. Let them live in it for 5 years. If nothing unexpected happens, I will apply to the parliament to launch a human enhancement plan." Half A year later, Dawnstar City number 1. Human Union Academy of Sciences, Mineral Resources Management Office, Mr. Hope. The credit points and contribution points have been transferred. Thank you for your contribution to the construction of the Human Union. A gentle female voice sounded in Hope's ears. He raised his wrist and opened his watch to confirm. The next moment, he showed an extremely bright smile on his face. How is it? Hansen, who was beside him, gently bumped his shoulder. I didn't lie to you, did I? The early bird catches the worm. In the past 6 months, we have completed the exploration of the nearby area. The second batch of awakened guys may have to go to a farther place to prospect for minerals. Thinking of the sullen faces of the second batch of awakened personnel, Hansen couldn't help laughing. Keep a low profile. Hope shook his head helplessly. Fortunately, there is no one around now. Otherwise, with your arrogance, tut tut tut, TSK. Hansen TSK unhappily. Have you heard about it? He looked around and made sure that there was no one around, then moved closer to Hope and said in a low voice, I heard that the construction of the surface city of Dawnstar may be suspended. Chapter 444. What? Hope's eyes widened and he exclaimed loudly. Hansen's words gave him an extremely strong shock. Suspend the construction plan of the surface city on Dawn. No, this is impossible. So far, including the surface cities under construction, there are only 6 large closed cities on Dawn. This cannot accommodate the 6 billion humans who are still in hibernation. Could it be that human civilization is in crisis again? For a moment, Hope's face turned pale, and there were bursts of buzzing sounds in his mind, and his vision became trance. As for Hansen on the side, he was obviously frightened by Hope's extremely intense reaction. His face changed slightly, and he quickly looked to the left and right. When he saw some staff members in the distance looking at them with doubtful eyes, he quickly reached out and pulled Hope's arm hard. Hey, brother, calm down. Hope cast a dazed look at Hansen. Looking at his companion who had not yet recovered his consciousness, Hansen reached out and slapped his smooth forehead. Oh my god, you should listen to my words, Pa. The crisp sound of the palm touching the forehead brought Hope back to his senses. What do you mean by that? Hope frowned, and a bad idea flashed through his mind. He suspected that he was deceived, and there was sufficient evidence. Hansen laughed awkwardly and scratched his head awkwardly. Believe me, I definitely didn't lie to you. Recently, the Academy of Sciences has indeed greatly slowed down the construction of surface cities, and the construction of surface cities may be suspended in the future. Hope shook his head repeatedly. No, absolutely impossible. Only build 6 closed cities. Where do you let the 6 billion hibernating personnel live after they wake up? Could it be that they are allowed to live in tents in the open air? Hansen's mouth corners gradually rose, revealing a meaningful and mysterious smile. Wait, what do you mean? Hope's eyes gradually widened, and his breathing became heavy. As you think, Hansen lowered his voice. The Academy of Sciences is studying planetary transformation technology. Professor Lou is going to turn Dawn into Earth number 2. Boom. Hope only felt a loud noise coming from the depths of his mind. Crazy. This was the first thought that popped into his mind after hearing the news. Planetary transformation. Transform Dawn into the second Earth. When did humans have such technology? But the next moment, he remembered the scene he saw when he first came to Dawn more than half a year ago. A dense network of planetary climate control satellites. Don't forget, that's Professor Lou, perhaps. He noticed the thoughts flashing in his companion's mind, and Hansen spoke faintly. Hope suddenly woke up. Yes, that's Lou Yongchang. Professor Lou, maybe, is all this really possible? As soon as this idea appeared, it took root in his mind and quickly grew into a towering tree. Hope swallowed hard, and the muscles on both sides of his cheeks trembled slightly. You mean, we may be able to walk out of this greenhouse and live under the real blue sky and white clouds? Hansen dragged Hope out of the door of the Mineral Resources Management Office and shrugged. I just heard it. Hope took a deep breath. The fire in his heart did not diminish at all because of this sentence, but even burned more and more. As the saying goes, I could have injured the darkness if I had never seen the light. Dawnstar number 1 City Point Human Union Academy of Sciences headquarters and the huge holographic projection in the conference room. Several Chinese characters were clearly presented. Earth-like planet transformation technology. LV Yongchang's voice was clearly transmitted to everyone's ears through the loudspeaker. Since entering the third level civilization, we have achieved great success in weapon technology. You can't bite off more than you can chew. For the stable development of the human fleet, I suggest that planetary transformation technology be listed as the focus of attack. On the one hand, it can greatly improve the quality of life. On the other hand, it can reduce Zero's computing power burden. Since the beginning of the Great Construction Era, Zero has been operating at full capacity. A large number of surface city construction tasks make it difficult for Zero to take into account the manufacturing progress of starships and weapons. Around the conference table, researchers nodded in agreement. Indeed, as LV Yongchang said, during this period, Zero's main energy was focused on building surface cities. All of this is to minimize the population pressure that human civilization may face in the future. Population has always been the fundamental factor that determines interstellar civilization. In order to keep the population growing, an environment suitable for survival is a necessary condition. But the problem lies here. Even Zero cannot build a surface city cluster that can accommodate 6 billion or even tens of billions of people in a short period of time. Therefore, it can be predicted that, if we choose to build a large number of surface cities, human civilization will face the dilemma of insufficient productivity for a long time. Without sufficient weapons and starships, once a crisis occurs, human civilization will fall into the abyss again. Do you have any objections? After deciding on the future research direction, LV Yongchang glanced around and asked softly. Obviously. No one in the Academy of Sciences would raise any objections to this. Very good, LV Yongchang nodded with satisfaction. Fangzhou, the design and verification of the new starship will be handed over to you and Ko Liang K. Tao. Yuda, you continue to improve the weapon system. Mo. Xiang. LV Yongchang arranged the research work in an orderly manner. Finally, he set his sights on the two researchers not far away. Shen, Siwen, Fan Yi, you come with me. Prepare to conquer the technology of transforming Earth-like planets. After the meeting, LV Yongchang controlled the mechanical exoskeleton armor and hurried on the way to the Dawnstar number 1 laboratory. In his mind, the memories of the past few days reappeared. Planet control, Earth-like planet transformation technology, as an advanced technology of initial planet control, planetary climate macro control technology. It is a technology with higher difficulty in the third level civilization. In order to get human civilization back on track as soon as possible, LV Yongchang had to take a small risk, forcibly analyzing this technology. Perhaps because the technology tree system has strengthened his brain for a long time, or perhaps because he has mastered the previous technology sufficiently, he did not fall into a long coma this time. After paying the price of several hours of dizziness, he successfully obtained a lot of inspiration. Chapter 445 Comet, Nero, Dawnstar, Laboratory number 1, Academician. Shen, I think the atmospheric problem should be solved first. Lu Yongchang heard Fan Yi's voice as soon as he entered the laboratory. Sounds like argument. Lu Yongchang subconsciously slowed down and looked towards the direction of the sound with interest. Sure enough, the next moment, Shen Shenwen's voice also sounded. No, 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 water resources are the most important issue. Water resources are too scarce on Dawnstar. Sufficient water resources are the basic condition for transforming Earth-like planets. The water resource problem is too difficult to solve. Faced with Shen Shenwen's words, Fan Yi quickly retorted, the atmosphere of Dawnstar is not difficult to modify. As long as the oxygen content reaches a standard, humans can take off their masks and live easily in the outside world. Shenwen sneered with a mocking look on his face. Have you forgotten how high the pressure in the outside world is? You Fan Yi's face turned red. Then have you forgotten the human enhancement project in the biological laboratory? Hey, you little baby. Shen Siwen said angrily, when I was studying biosphere technology, you were not born yet. Cough. Seeing that the argument between the two was about to escalate further, Yongchang hurriedly coughed lightly, interrupting the friendly exchange between the two. The voices of argument stopped abruptly. Shen Shenwen and Fan Yi slowly turned around, and when they saw Yongchang, they both had expressions of hopelessness on their faces. Professor, why are you here? Shen Shenwen asked awkwardly. Hearing this, Yongchang's expression became strange. He slowly made a question mark in his mind and gave his own evaluation. 6. As if he realized that he had said something stupid, Shen Shenwen's expression became more and more embarrassed. The discussion was quite good. Yongchang glanced at Shen Shenwen with a half smile. How is it? Do you have any ideas for a form? It's not determined yet. Shen Shenwen said with some confusion. I think we should increase the water reserves of Dawnstar first, but Fan Yi doesn't agree with my plan. Changing the composition of the atmosphere directly, right? Yongchang took over, smiled and shook his head. The consumption is too great. We don't have that many resources. What? A joke. According to the size of the Dawnstar, directly changing its atmospheric composition into an environment similar to that of the Earth would consume resources that he might as well build a surface city cluster. Hearing this, Shen Shenwen instantly became energetic. Professor, do you also think that we should transport water resources from other planets and then slowly transform the Dawnstar environment through plants? I have seen the detector data. Shen Shenwen hurriedly opened a holographic image. On the 8th planet of the Gliese 555 star system, there is a large amount of water in solid form, as long as we keep it. After introducing his plan, Shen Shenwen looked at Yongchang in front of him expectantly. Yongchang pondered for a moment, nodded, and then shook his head. The general direction is fine, just some details need to be changed. He reached out and dragged the holographic projection in front of Shen Shenwen. Why waste manpower transporting water resources to other planets? It's such a waste. As he spoke, Yongchang ruthlessly made a big cross on the holographic projection. Seeing this, Shen Shenwen couldn't help but froze on the spot. If we don't do this, where will we get water resources? Yongchang waved to the camera. 0. Open the satellite image. A photo with a strange angle appeared in front of everyone. I didn't do my homework carefully enough. Yongchang joked with Shen Siwen with a smile and pointed at the upper right corner of the image. Did you see it? Shen Shenwen looked at the picture blankly and murmured to himself, comet, under the light of the main star. A comet dragging a long tail flies straight towards the direction of the main star. Narrow. Yongchang explained softly. The name of this comet, according to the latest observational data, 90% of its material components are solid ice, as well as some ammonia, methane and interstellar dust. Unlike ordinary comets, this comet is very large. The radius reaches 300 kilometers, and the water resources contained in it are enough to make Dawnstar a water-rich planet. According to calculations, it will approach dawn in 1 year. Shen Siwen looked at the holographic screen and murmured to himself, so, Professor, do you want to capture this comet? Yongchang smiled and nodded, making a little joke. Thank you for the gift of nature. Yongchang opened the already edited information and introduced it in detail. From now on, the Academy of Sciences will dispatch 100 TOT ships to Comet Nero. Don't you wait for it to come on its own. Shen Shenwen asked in surprise. I want to, but the situation doesn't allow it. Yongchang shrugged helplessly. According to observations, it is constantly approaching the main star of Gliese 555. You should know it clearly by looking at the huge comet tail. Every moment, it's losing a lot of mass to radiation from its host star. This is not okay. Those are precious water resources on the future Dawnstar. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a burst of laughter in the laboratory. After arriving near the comet, Zero will control the robot to cover the surface of the comet with a layer of black cloth. LV Yongchang didn't care about the laughter of the crowd and continued. The black cloth made of carbon nanotubes can effectively isolate the radiation of the main star and preserve the mass of the comet as much as possible. At the same time, the robot will sample and analyze its components. After confirming that it is harmless, 100 TOT will use carbon nanotube nets to slow it down for up to half a year. Finally, when it arrives near dawn, it will be captured by the gravity of dawn. Speaking of this, LV Yongchang made an explosion gesture. When it enters the atmosphere of dawn, we will completely smash it to reduce its impact on the ground. When a large number of rivers, lakes, and oceans appear on the surface of dawn, we can start the second step of the plan. Under Zero's control, the holographic screen quickly switched. Ross 154 nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria. Compared with nitrogen fixing plants on Earth, the nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria on the planet Ross 154 have a stronger nitrogen fixing ability and a shorter growth cycle. Through genetic modification, we can also give it the ability to photosynthesize. While converting part of the carbon dioxide into oxygen, it absorbs a large amount of nitrogen in the atmosphere, thereby greatly reducing the air pressure of dawn and improving the atmospheric composition of dawn. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 446, Abnormality found in the target area. Professor, although high pressure environments can significantly improve the body's absorption efficiency of oxygen, but, according to testing, the concentration of carbon dioxide in Dawnstar's atmosphere is 1.14%. Even if all of it is converted into oxygen, the oxygen concentration is not enough to support normal human activities. Fan Yi frowned and said, I think that in addition to relying on biological effects, large-scale atmospheric modification work is still essential, even if it requires a lot of resources. This is a step that cannot be skipped. The corners of Lu Yangchang's mouth raised slightly, and a mysterious smile appeared on his face. Have you forgotten the layer of hematite covering the surface of Dawnstar? Fan Yi couldn't help but be stunned. Suddenly, he seemed to realize something, and his expression suddenly became excited. He clasped his hands together and murmured excitedly, yes, there is hematite, carbon, and iron oxide react in a high temperature environment to produce elemental iron and carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide produced is then converted into oxygen through the photosynthesis of Ross 154 nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria. Fan Yi suddenly raised his head and looked at Lu Yangchang in front of him with burning eyes. This is simply a perfect cycle, correct? Answer, Lu Yangchang said with a smile. In this way, planetary transformation will not only not slow down our development speed, but will even have a certain promoting effect. When various infrastructure constructions are completed, the atmospheric composition of Dawnstar will slowly approach the Earth, and we just have to pay a certain amount of waiting time. Speaking of this, Lu Yangchang shrugged. Of course, the whole process is definitely not that simple. The process of transforming the surface environment of the entire planet will involve a large number of uncertain factors. Next, our main job is to build a complete planetary model, make all preparations, and wait for Nero's arrival. As for the transformation of nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria, the biological laboratory is already working on it. The central region of the Milky Way point, just like hundreds of years ago, the artificial planets belonging to the sweeper civilization still stayed in place motionless. No rotation, no revolution, no gravity. There is no way to observe the existence of this planet, except by observing it with the naked eye. It is like a virtual projection, quietly staying in the center of the Milky Way, declaring its sovereignty to the surroundings inside the artificial planet. There is a bizarre scene. Screens of light flashed, presenting information from all corners of the galaxy. Cleaner 9527, surrounded by light curtains, sat lazily on a chair. Sir, the detector found an abnormality in the target area. An obscure voice sounded inside the artificial planet. What? Cleaner 9527's visual organs quickly looked in the direction of the sound. A black dwarf star. The obscure voice sounded again. Oh. A look of surprise flashed across the face of Cleaner 9527, who was originally slumped in his seat. He straightened up and waved his tentacles to control the light curtain in front of him. Black dwarf. Have you searched it? Is it in our astral database? No. After a moment of silence, the subordinate reported again in an extremely obscure tone. In the star database, there are no black dwarfs in this area. The voice paused and then sounded again. At least, there are no black dwarfs recorded within 1,000 light years. Sweeper 9527's tentacles waved in the air, subconsciously pointed was his way of expressing excitement. Finally, can't hide it anymore. He quickly moved the light curtain in front of him with his tentacles and murmured to himself. A black dwarf appeared out of thin air. Are you ready to absorb energy and fight to the death? Sir, what do you mean? There was a hint of doubt in the subordinate's voice. This is made of painting. Sweeper 9527 did not answer, but the amplitude of his tentacle waving became wider and wider. Obviously, the information on the light screen made him more and more excited. Found it. KZQXT 771, a red dwarf star, has an estimated remaining life of 1.5 trillion years. Sweeper 9527 murmured in a low voice while dancing. Sir? His subordinates became more and more confused. Extracting and utilizing stellar energy should be a necessary technology for level 6 civilizations. Although the Milky Way is a bit remote, there are still some level 6 civilizations. How are you sure this is painting? The movement of Sweeper 9527's tentacles slowed down a bit. Pointy turned his head and looked at his subordinates with a strange expression. Are you sure that the technology mastered by a 6th level civilization can turn a red dwarf star into a black dwarf star within 200 years? Let alone a 6th level civilization. Even a star devourer would have a hard time accomplishing this. 200 years. The subordinate was stunned and exclaimed, how is this possible? Sweeper 9527's tentacles moved slightly and dragged a light curtain in front of his subordinate. The last time the detector observed the star KZQXT 771 was 200 years ago. At that time, it was an extremely young and healthy red dwarf star. In 200 years, completely drained the energy of a red dwarf star. The large mass energy conversion device of the mother civilization can do it easily, but it is in our warehouse, except for painting. I can't think of any other civilization in the Milky Way that has such strength. But the subordinate hesitated. Why would it do this? I mean, it can absorb energy secretly instead of so blatantly. Sweeper 9527 looked a little gloomy. That's easy to guess. Maybe its injuries are too serious and it urgently needs a lot of energy to repair itself. Or maybe it has recovered from its injuries and is fully preparing for war. No matter which one it is what we are looking forward to. After waiting for so long, this war can finally come to an end. At this point, Sweeper 9527 stood up from his seat and his tentacles swept across a light curtain again. Order all detectors within 1,000 light years of the star KZQXT 771 enter the curvature state. I need to get all the data of the black dwarf in the shortest possible time. Sweeper 9527 pondered for a moment and said again, start the planetary fortress and prepare for war. As soon as the voice fell, the atmosphere in the artificial planet suddenly became solemn. Yes, at the same time point the artificial planet that was originally stationary in the universe slowly turned. Chapter 447 Galaxy Triangle. Virgo Supercluster. Local Group. Triangulum Galaxy Point is the third largest galaxy in the local group. The Triangulum Galaxy, with a diameter of 60,000 light years, has bred many civilizations. The two-dimensional creature painting as one of the best followed the outsiders billions of years ago and embarked on the galaxy bridge and the road to leave his hometown point. The so-called Galaxy Bridge is a long bridge built between the Triangulum Galaxy and the Andromeda Galaxy, constructed by clumps of neutral hydrogen atoms. Galaxy Bridge appeared 5 billion years ago. The reason for its formation is unclear. It is initially speculated that it is a means of high-level civilization, and the purpose is unknown. Recently, Galaxy Bridge has been flashing abnormally, and the reason is unknown. Triangulum Galaxy. The above content is excerpted from the Chronicle of the Triangulum Galaxy. Near the central black hole of the Triangulum Galaxy, a ball of silk thread twists freely in the empty space, as if it has its own consciousness. The huge gravitational force of the central black hole seems to have no effect on it. The silk thread is extremely long. The diameter of the silk thread ball even reached a huge light year. If a civilization used detection instruments to detect this ball of silk thread, they would be surprised to find that this ball of silk thread had no so-called height and width. There was only the concept of length on it. It was even impossible to find the starting point and end point of this ball of silk thread, as if it was an infinitely extended thin thread. An obscure wave came from infinite distance, making the twisting movement of this ball of silk thread stiff for a moment. In the space next to the ball of silk thread, a shadow appeared. A wave of the same nature came from the shadow silk. Do you feel it? The next moment, the twisted silk thread also sent out a wave of the same obscure wave. Felt it. Hua is dead, and our power has been weakened again. The sweeper civilization is too powerful, even in a remote area like the Milky Way. It has such a powerful force. The message sent by Silk was full of frustration and helplessness. We may fail. No, feel it carefully. The message came again from the shadow, who encrypted the message. After a period of silence, the ball of silk began to twist again. Yes, you are right. Hua is not dead. This time, the message sent by Silk was full of joy. It is implementing its plan. Yes. The obscure fluctuations in the shadow became stronger. Maybe we will not have to shrink in this small corner soon. The twisting amplitude of the silk thread became larger. Wait. And have hope. The next moment, the shadow dissipated, and the twisting amplitude of the silk thread gradually decreased. The central black hole area of the Triangulum Galaxy once again returned to its original silence. Milky Way, Orion Arm, Ross 154 star system. A spherical probe suddenly appeared on the outskirts of the star system. The probe was dark gray and smooth, with no cracks or gaps on the surface. Probe number 912,133,165 has left the curvature state and successfully arrived at the destination. A message was sent to the central area of the Milky Way at superluminal speed. Without any power source visible to the naked eye, this spherical probe suddenly accelerated to 10% of the speed of light and flew straight towards Ross 154. It is called a star system, but it is not. Ross 154, which has become a black dwarf, has lost most of its mass, and is no longer able to maintain the existence of the original star system. There is only one lonely black dwarf left in the entire star system. The dark gray spherical probe quickly arrived at its destination. It quickly rotated around the black dwarf several times, as if looking at this long dead star. No trace of the target has been found yet, and the dimensional analysis device is ready to be activated. Another message was sent to the central area of the Milky Way. The next moment, a crack appeared on the side of the spherical detector. Hundreds of small detectors emerged from the crack. These small detectors quickly flew towards Ross 154 and wrapped it. Then, each small detector emitted a bright green light. These green lights connected to each other to form a huge cube. In the cube, Ross 154 turned into a black dwarf. Drip dimensional analysis device activated. Spatial curvature detection. Dimensional stability detection. Warning. Dimensional stability in the current area is abnormal. The central area of the Milky Way inside the sweeper artificial planet, Sir. Dimensional stability has been found to be abnormal. Dimensional rise and fall phenomena have occurred in this area. The subordinate's voice was full of excitement. You are right. It is the behavior of painting sweeper. 9527 had already sat up straight, and his visual organs were staring at the several light screens in front of him. His tentacles danced quickly, operating all the light screens in front of him at the same time. It has been confirmed that there has been a dimensionality increase phenomenon near a black dwarf. When Sweeper 9527 said this, he was stunned. Dimensional increase phenomenon? How could it be a dimensional increase phenomenon? He looked through the data on the screen in disbelief and muttered to himself. The subordinates beside him also looked at the detection data on the screen in surprise. Dimensional increase, isn't. Who are a two-dimensional creature? How could there be a phenomenon of dimensional upgrading? Sweeper 9527 was silent for a moment and squeezed out a sentence with difficulty. Of course there will be dimensional upgrading, since the development of the universe, 3 dimensions, as the most stable dimension, have an extremely strong assimilation effect on other dimensions. This is also the most uncomfortable point for dimensional civilization. They need to consume a lot of energy to resist the assimilation of the universe and maintain their own dimensions. That's why they think about restoring the universe to the pastoral era all day long. The subordinate suddenly realized something. His tentacles stiffened, and he exclaimed, You mean, yes. Sweeper 9527 slowly closed his visual organs. Hua is dead. Hua is unable to maintain its two-dimensional state, and only in this way will there be a phenomenon of dimensional upgrading here. Sweeper 9527 was full of confusion. Hua is dead, so what should he do with his mission? The mother civilization is making every effort to conquer two-dimensional technology, just waiting to analyze Hua's body. How should he report to the mother civilization? Two-dimensional creature, drawing, dead, cause of death unknown. What a joke. No, I don't believe it. He growled. How could a two-dimensional creature, a level 7 civilization, die so easily? Tear up this black dwarf and check it for me. I want to know the exact time when the dimensionality raising phenomenon occurs. Chapter 448 Carbon Atom Nebula. Orion arm of the Milky Way galaxy. Ross 154. As a message came from the center of the Milky Way, an extremely strong flash of light occurred near this unknown black dwarf star. The source of the light is the small detectors released by the sweeper detectors the moment the light appeared. Irregular black cracks resembling spider web shapes appeared in the cubic net composed of these small detectors. Viewed from the side, it looks like a complete mirror that was smashed by a high-speed flying object. However, it is slightly different from the cracking of the mirror. The cracks that appear in the surrounding network are three-dimensional. They appear from the vicinity of every small detector and spread toward the center of the black dwarf star at extremely high speeds like a black hole. The crack swallows up the faint starlight in the background of the universe. There was no resistance, and in just a moment, the pitch black cracks easily split the black dwarf into countless three-dimensional fragments. The light emitted by the detector is getting stronger and stronger. An indescribable vibration came from the black dwarf area. That's a tremor originating from three-dimensional space. The next moment, the light from the small detector slowly dissipated, and the dark cracks and vibrations gradually disappeared. However, the originally integrated black dwarf star has turned into a loose interstellar dust composed of carbon atoms. Ross 154, as Sweeper 9527 said, was completely shattered on the physical level. At the beginning, under the influence of inertia, this cloud of interstellar dust still retained the shape of Ross 154, a sphere. With the unscrupulous detection behavior of the small detectors, its appearance quickly became irregular. It is foreseeable that, if there are no accidents, this loose interstellar dust will eventually form an alternative nebula. Unlike normally formed nebulae, which are mainly composed of hydrogen and helium, its composition is mainly carbon atoms from black dwarf stars. Sir, the time when the dimensionality phenomenon will occur has been determined. The subordinate's tentacles moved slightly, sending a light curtain in front of Sweeper 9527. About 100 years ago. It was a long time ago, and the detection error was very large. Cleaner 9527 looked a little ugly when he heard this. The error is very large, which means that the difficulty of the subsequent search will be increased by several levels. He didn't speak, just glanced at the time and the screen, then turned around and opened another light screen. KZQXT 771. Star System. The last observation was 200 years ago. The indicator light on the external memory storage device flashes rapidly. Import specific parameters of the star system. Preparing to rebuild a simulated star system. Sweeper 9527 quickly operated the light curtain in front of him. Soon, a virtual star system appeared in front of him. That was the Ross 154 star system observed by detectors 200 years ago. Compared with the Carbon Nebula today, the two are simply worlds apart. At that time, it was still a healthy and long-lived red dwarf star. Planets orbit around it in an orderly manner. Sweeper 9527 looked at the star system in front of him with an indifferent expression. It's so barren, it doesn't even have basic life. I didn't expect that. Who would choose to hide in a place like this? A subordinate's voice full of disgust came from the side. In their opinion, even the intact Ross 154 is not as good as the smelly ditch on the roadside. There are still some lives and resources in the stinking ditch. What does Ross 154 have? Apart from an energy-scarce red dwarf star, there are almost no useful resources. Of course, this is for the sweeper civilization. An painting. Cleaner 9527 responded calmly, but this is indeed the best choice. There are too many such star systems in the Orion arm of the Milky Way. Even we don't have the resources to check these ordinary star systems one by one. That's why we haven't been able to find the painting. As he spoke, Cleaner 9527 stretched out his tentacles and lightly clicked on the light screen in front of him. Time has sped up. The Ross 154 star system in the picture is moving rapidly. 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, 100 years. In just an instant, the Ross 154 star system simulated in the light curtain reached a critical point in time, the period when the dimensionality phenomenon occurred. Track all the stars in the star system and calculate their next trajectory. Let other detectors follow all possible paths to find it. Upon hearing this, the subordinate's movements paused slightly. Sir, what do you mean? The painting may have been a suspended animation, and it left the star system through a planet. Cleaner 9527 did not reply, but silently looked at the picture in the light screen. He wasn't sure either, but he couldn't believe that a 7th level civilization could die on such a remote star. The subordinates, who received no answer, silently conveyed the instructions to the outside world. The artificial planet gradually stopped spinning and returned to its original appearance January 19th. 2384 in the Earth calendar. Hope is wearing a spacesuit and sitting by the water near City 1. He had picked up this habit since his first exploration mission. Whenever he is free, he will come to the water next to City number 1, sit on the rocks on the shore, and quietly watch this peaceful scenery. Although the water area is not large, the sound of the gentle waves and the slight sea breeze always remind him of memories from the Earth's time. As usual, he turned on the radio function on his helmet. The sound of waves and wind filled his helmet again. Suddenly, a burst of heavy footsteps came from behind. He subconsciously turned his head and looked behind him. Hope, I knew you were here again. A familiar voice came from the team radio channel. Hansen? Hope was stunned, stretched out his hands on the ground, and stood up from the rock. Why are you here? Unlike him, Hansen is not a regular visitor here. At first, perhaps because he was worried about his teammate's mental condition, Hansen stayed with him a few times, but after a few times Hansen found that his teammate's mental state was extremely stable, so he chose the comfortable number 1 city. There's news, Hansen said bluntly. Didn't you see the message I sent you? Hope was stunned, then raised his watch and checked it. Really? Dozens of messages were neatly arranged in the small holographic projection. Excuse me, Hope cancelled the mute function with some embarrassment. I'm used to turning on mute at this time. Hansen waved his hand indifferently. After so many years together, he has long been accustomed to Hope's bad habits. So, Hope asked casually, while checking the unread messages in the watcher's read, what news made you come to me specifically? Hansen took a deep breath, with a bit of excitement in his eyes. The planetary transformation plan has officially started. Chapter 449 Planetary Transformation begins. Hope's finger swiping the holographic projection suddenly paused. What did you say? He couldn't tell whether he was excited or surprised. Extremely complex emotions surged crazily in his heart. The preparatory plan for planetary transformation started half a year ago. So soon has the terraforming been completed? What is the Academy of Sciences going to do next, Hope? Asked his teammates somewhat incoherently. Hansen did not speak, but raised his wrist and turned on the holographic projection function of the watch point. After entering a few keywords, he reached out and made a gesture. The holographic screen flips. The Academy of Humanities and Sciences announced today that it has officially launched the planetary transformation plan. Comet Nero has been successfully captured and will arrive at Dawnstar in 6 months. The surface terraforming project of Dawnstar has been completed. Let us wait for the arrival of Nero. Hope stared blankly at the news on the holographic screen. He was just muted for a few hours. Why did it feel like he had traveled through time? He didn't have time to ask, so he quickly reached out and clicked on the information, checking it carefully. 6 months ago, Dawnstar City number 6 was officially completed. But to everyone's surprise, the construction plan for City number 7 has not appeared for a long time. Amid everyone's questions, the People's Academy of Sciences released a plan without haste. Planet Transformation Preliminary Plan. Under the long-term publicity of the holographic theater, even the new generation born from Proxima Centauri is full of expectations and fantasies about the legendary Earth Age. Not to mention the older generation from Earth. The moment I learned that Dawnstar might become the second Earth in the future, and that humans might once again live under blue skies and white clouds, the 6 surface cities were completely boiling. All young people of appropriate age voluntarily went to the City Administration Bureau to apply to participate in this renovation plan. Hope and Hansen to no exception. Naturally, they continued their old business, prospecting for ores. When they have time, they will also drive mineral exploration ships to help transport supplies. Although it cannot match the efficiency of robots, there is great power in numbers, and the labor of hundreds of millions of people has greatly accelerated the completion of pre-planning. In just half a year, canals and lakes of various sizes appeared on Dawnstar. Of course, they are all dry at the moment. Not only that, high dams and various drainage facilities have also been built near the 6 surface cities. At that time, the Academy of Sciences did not clearly explain the purpose of these facilities, which also caused many people to wonder. After all, there is not enough water on Dawnstar. The water area not far from City number 1 is only the size of the Mediterranean Sea. Although there are several water areas further away, the scales are similar. The so-called embankments and drainage facilities were just decorations at the time. Therefore, many people speculate that the Academy of Sciences is preparing to transport water resources from the 8th planet of Gliese 555. Even Hope and Hansen thought so. But now it seems they are still too young. No one expected that the Academy of Sciences would go all the way to capture an icy comet with a radius of 300 kilometers without saying a word. Hope looked at the picture in the holographic projection excitedly. With the cooperation of countless robots, a huge black curtain was covered on the surface of the comet. A black curtain made of carbon nanotubes blocks a large amount of radiation from Gliese 555. The comet's tail, which originally stretched for hundreds of millions of kilometers, completely disappeared at this moment. Then, driven by 100 TOT material reserve ships, the comet began to slow down slowly and changed its course. It no longer flew towards Gliese 555, but flew straight towards the Dawnstar. In order to reduce the loss of the comet as much as possible, the farther away from Gliese 555, the better. According to data given by the Academy of Sciences, Comet Nero will intersect with Dawnstar in 6 months and be captured by Dawnstar's gravity. Such a huge ice comet merges into the Dawnstar. A conservative estimate is that it was a very large rainfall that affected the entire Dawnstar. Fuck. After reading the news, thousands of words in Hope's mind merged into a simple vocabulary. No wonder we have to build dams and drainage facilities. Professor Lou is awesome. His body trembled slightly, his face flushed, and he shouted in a low voice. Hansen, who was standing in front of him, shrugged and closed the holographic screen. Although he had the same reaction the moment he saw the news. But now, I said, brother, can you be calmer and calmer like me? Hope. He didn't pay attention to Hansen's words at this time. He was quickly opening his watch, preparing to continue searching for relevant information. Okay, no need to search anymore. That's about all the useful information Hansen stretched out his hand to interrupt Hope's movements. Hope was stunned. What happened after the comet arrived? Didn't the Academy of Sciences say anything? I didn't say that. Hansen rolled his eyes angrily. You also know the temper of the Academy of Sciences. It is estimated that these plans will not be disclosed until the last minute. Hope's mouth twitched and he turned to look in the direction of the water this time. His eyes did not stop at the small pond in front of him, but directly towards the blue-purple sky. 6 months. In just 6 months, Dawn will be reborn. July 29, 2384 Earth calendar. There are still 3 days before Nero reaches the scheduled orbit point as the alarm sounded. All humans on the surface of Dawn return to the 6 surface cities. Dawn City Number 1, Human Union Academy of Sciences Headquarters. 0. Make the final confirmation. LV. Yongchang's voice sounded in the command hall, confirming. Zero's voice sounded, and a fast-moving progress bar appeared in the huge holographic projection in front. A few seconds later, it has been confirmed that there are no stranded people outside Dawn. LV. Yongchang nodded seriously and gave the order. Close the city. The port gates connecting the 6 surface cities to the outside world made a rumbling sound under the push of hydraulic devices. Under the gaze of everyone, the port gates slowly closed. The Noah's Ark plan is officially launched. The first step of the Dawn Surface Environment Transformation Plan. Noah's Ark. Similar to Noah's Ark in the Bible, humans at this time also hid in 6 surface cities to avoid the upcoming global heavy rain. When the rain ends and the flood recedes, humans who leave the surface cities will get a brand new home. Chapter 450 Detonation. Earth calendar, July 31st. 2384.23:30:00. Time passes bit by bit. Inside 6 surface cities, hundreds of millions of people either stay at home or gather in squares and streets. There isn't any loud noise. Everyone held their breath and quietly looked at the large or small holographic projections in front of them. On the screen, the red countdown was beating very firmly. Countdown to the last 30 minutes outside the city. The atmosphere on Dawnstar was as dry as ever under the control of the Circumplanetary Climate Control Satellite. A superstorm blew up again in the high-risk area. Numbered X. There is a gentle breeze in the A1 plane, and the light from Gliese 555 is evenly sprinkled on the yellow-brown soil, bringing a little warmth to this super Earth. Quiet, peaceful. But if you look up at the blue-purple sky, you will see a horrifying scene. A huge black sphere was slowly moving across the sky. That's Comet Nero wrapped in carbon nanotube black cloth. Not far from the black sphere, there are more than 100 small dots shining with light. That's the light emitted by the Hall thruster at the rear of the TOT material transport ship. A few hours ago, with the gravitational pull of Dawnstar and the joint efforts of the TOT material transport ship, Comet Nero had entered the predetermined orbit. Currently, the TOT material transport ship is undergoing final deceleration work on it. As the flight speed decreases, Nero's altitude will continue to decrease. Until it falls into the atmosphere. The black cloth on its surface will also be unraveled. Just before it falls into the atmosphere, Nero has reached the predetermined speed. Get ready to untie the net bag, Lu. Yongchang's steady voice sounded in the command hall of the Academy of Sciences headquarters and the huge holographic projection directly in front of him. Nero's flight speed continued to decrease, and the planned flight path became a parabola. Warning. Zero's electronic synthesized voice came from the speaker. Nero will contact the atmosphere of Dawnstar in 15 minutes. A flash of light flashed in Lu Yongchang's eyes, and he issued the order without hesitation. Untie the net bag. Almost at the same moment, bang, 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 several explosions occurred on the surface of Nero outside the atmosphere. The power of these explosions is extremely small and can only break the black net bag made of carbon nanotube material. After the net bag was untied, the TOT material reserve ship each dragged its own part of the debris and left quickly. Of course, there was inevitably some accidental damage during the explosion. Part of the ice on Nero's surface was blown into space by the explosive. These finely divided ice crystals form a huge white cloud outside the atmosphere. Nero, who had just freed himself from the net bag, instantly disappeared into the clouds that sparkled in the sunlight. This scene that took place outside the atmosphere was clearly recorded by ultra-high definition cameras and displayed in all holographic projections in real time. The moment the black mesh bag was untied, Hope subconsciously held her breath. Not only him, but everyone around him had the same reaction. 0014. 30. The bright red countdown numbers are still beating slowly. But the picture returned by the high definition camera showed no movement at all. It won't be stuck. Ah, you kidding me? This thing also jams at such a critical moment. A full 30 seconds of waiting caused some commotion in the originally quiet crowd. Come out. A high-pitched cry sounded from a corner of the square. Everyone turns their attention to the giant holographic projection ahead. Really, Nero, bursting out of the white cloud with unrivaled power. At this moment, in front of hundreds of millions of humans, it revealed its long-hidden true appearance. A giant, dirty white puck. Although the appearance is not very good, no one has a look of disgust on their face. This is the cornerstone of building a super Earth. God Hope looked straight at the holographic projection in front of him and murmured to himself, Hansen, tell me, if this comet hits the surface of Dawnstar directly, are we going extinct like the dinosaurs? Hansen rolled his eyes angrily. You kidding me? You working as a breadwinner for the People's Alliance fleet? Although he said this, there was still a hint of panic in Hansen's eyes. 00:00:30. The last 30 seconds at the headquarters of the People's Academy of Sciences in City Number 1, a shrill alarm sounded in the command hall. Warn, the target will contact the Dawnstar's atmosphere in 30 seconds. Yongchang looked solemn and reached out to operate the small holographic projection in front of him. Attention, all units, prepare to detonate the high-yield hydrogen bomb. As soon as he finished speaking, Nero cut into the atmosphere of Dawnstar with a beautiful angle. Then, a bright fire appeared in front of Nero, who was completely white. That is a phenomenon caused by Nero's intense friction with the dense atmosphere of Dawnstar. After entering the atmosphere, the heat generated by friction rapidly melted the huge icy comet. But with a diameter of 600 kilometers, it is destined that it cannot melt completely in such a short time. At least, it cannot melt naturally before falling to the ground. So, when Nero's height dropped to a certain level, Yongchang reached out and pressed the virtual button on the holographic projection in front of him. Detonate. The countdown has already returned to 0. Seeing the huge Nero smashing straight to the ground with a monstrous force, everyone's face showed instinctive fear, no matter who it was, even Hope and Hansen. The scene of the meteorite hitting the ground flashed in their minds, but the next second something changed suddenly. Boom. Under the gaze of everyone, an extremely strong impact gushed out from the inside of Nero. In an instant, this giant ice comet with a diameter of 600 kilometers turned into several large fragments. These fragments spun in the air and flew in all directions like a fairy scattering flowers in the blue-purple sky of Dawnstar. A scene like a meteor shower suddenly appeared. The crowd suddenly fell silent. The next second, deafening cheers came from all directions. It's a super large hydrogen bomb, Hope whispered. As he spoke, he clenched his fists tightly, his face full of excitement. Even a giant comet with a diameter of 600 kilometers can only end up in pieces under human weapons. Like Hope, everyone in the city showed more or less excitement and pride in their eyes. This is today's human civilization. This is the power that humans have today. Humans are no longer afraid of any natural disasters on planets. On the contrary, humans can use these natural disasters to transform planets. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.